Chapter 621. The moment Chu Fengmian opened his mouth, the sword in his hand moved. The swordsmanship contained in the edge of the sword was different from Chu Fengmian's previous swordsmanship. Ordinary swordsmanship, no matter how perfect it was, would have flaws. However, Chu Fengmian's sword was based on countless swordsmanship recorded in ancient swordsmanship books and his own experience. It was a swordsmanship that he created. The 9 regions swordsmanship had no weaknesses. It was truly an invincible swordsmanship. Hiss. 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 As the sword fell, the edge of the sword suddenly slashed toward Lu Hua. The sword didn't seem to be too fancy. It only went to the heart, and its target was Lu Hua himself. Although it seemed easy to dodge, the sword had completely locked onto Lu Hua's aura. Even if Lu Hua escaped to the ends of the earth, he would be enveloped and killed by the sword. Lu Hua also felt the terror of Chu Fengmian's sword. The more ordinary the sword looked, the more terrifying the power that burst out from it. His body moved, and the countless thunderbolts around him were released. The thunderbolts turned into an incomparably huge armor and covered Lu Hua. At the same time, countless thunderbolts gathered under his feet and turned into an incomparably huge thunderbolt ship. It was at least 1,000 meters long and wide. Lu Hua stood on the thunderbolt ship and activated the power of the thunderbolt ship. Then, he suddenly slammed the ship with his sword. Boom! In the face of Chu Fengmian's sword, the giant thunderbolt ship was cut in half in an instant. Although the thunderbolt ship was formed by Lu Hua's thunderbolts, its toughness was not inferior to an Earth-grade spiritual artifact. But now, it was cut open smoothly. Obviously, the thunderbolt ship couldn't stop Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship. The sharpness of the sword was astonishing. After cutting the thunderbolt ship, the power of the sword didn't decrease at all. It directly slashed toward Lu Hua again. Lu Hua didn't expect that Chu Fengmian's sword would be so powerful. A trace of seriousness flashed in his eyes. This expression was noticed by the countless seed disciples present here, and all of them exclaimed with admiration. Lu Hua hadn't been serious for a long time. This time, in front of Chu Fengmian, Lu Hua had no choice but to be serious. Chu Fengmian, your strength is indeed not bad. Even if we were to fight one-on-one, it would be extremely difficult for me to deal with you. Lu Hua looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. Suddenly, she changed the topic. However, this is the Northern Mang Sanctuary. It's absolutely impossible for you to deal with me by yourself. Royal faction disciples, get into formation. Lu Hua suddenly let out a long howl. More than 10 figures suddenly appeared from the surrounding crowd and landed on the life and death ring at the same time. These people were the seed disciples of the Northern Mang sacred region. They were also the disciples of the Lu Hua King faction. When these royal faction disciples appeared, they waved their hands and suddenly formed an incomparably huge array. At the center of this array was Lu Hua. Lu Hua's body was in the middle of the array. His strength began to rise, and the lightning on his body became 5 to 6 times thicker. Lu Hua suddenly made a grabbing motion, and endless lightning struck towards Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's sword was completely devoured by the endless lightning. In terms of Lu Hua's strength alone, she was indeed inferior to Chu Fengmian. However, Lu Hua was not alone. He was also the leader of the royal faction. These royal faction disciples appeared at the same time, and all of their strength was added to Lu Hua's body, causing Lu Hua's strength to increase by several folds. This battle was no longer a battle between Chu Fengmian and Lu Hua, but a battle between Chu Fengmian and the entire royal faction. Chu Fengmian, no matter how strong you are, you can't contend against the entire royal faction. Lu Hua's aura soared as he suddenly laughed out loud. Lightning prison. Countless thunderbolts suddenly fell, forming an incomparably huge cage. It directly trapped Chu Fengmian within. Do you think that you can fight against me by teaming up with a bunch of ants? Looking at Lu Hua, Chu Fengmian suddenly sneered, and his eyes were filled with disdain. Ants could kill an elephant with enough strength. This logic was true, but no matter how many ants there were, they couldn't kill a real dragon. In the face of absolute strength, it didn't matter how many people there were, or if they teamed up. If that's the case, I'll completely destroy your royal faction. Let's see what other trump cards you have. Chu Fengmian's body moved again. The ancestral dragon supreme sword in his hand suddenly moved, and the dragon force and sword will merged into one, turning into a sharp blade that swept across the surroundings. The lightning prison that was formed in the surroundings was completely shattered in an instant. It was directly cut apart. Chu Fengmian's body left the lightning prison, and directly rushed to the sky, holding the ancestral dragon supreme sword in his hand, and suddenly slashed towards Lu Hua. Hiss! The blade flashed, and Chu Fengmian's sword aura turned into a scorching light, and directly slashed towards Lu Hua. Destroy our royal faction? Chu Fengmian, you're really arrogant. In the northern Mang sacred region, no one dares to boast like you, not even Yi Tianjun. How dare you say such words by yourself? Lu Hua sneered coldly. You don't understand. Your strength is just an ant in front of our royal faction. No matter how strong you are, how can you fight against an entire force? If I want to kill you now, it's as easy as flipping my hand. I'll defeat you first. I'll also let you understand the strength of our royal faction. Lu Hua stood on the giant lightning ship, and looked at Chu Fengmian like the Emperor of Lightning. Beside him, more than 10 disciples of the royal faction gathered their spiritual energy, and all of their energy was injected into Lu Hua's body, causing Lu Hua's strength to skyrocket. He waved his hand, and lightning fell from the sky, and crazily clashed with Chu Fengmian's sword light in the sky. Is that so? No one can destroy your royal faction. Then today, I'll destroy your royal faction. Chu Fengmian laughed loudly. Kill me? How laughable. You bunch of useless people want to kill me? Whatever lightning, break it. While Chu Fengmian was talking, his sword light had already fallen. The sword light was like a ray of light, and it clashed with countless lightning in the sky. Countless lightning were devoured by the sword light. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's body suddenly moved, and he turned into an extremely fast shadow, and rushed towards Lu Hua with a leap. The sword in his hand suddenly fell. 2 updates today, and I'll update again when I wake up. I've been on the train for the whole day, and I'm so tired. I'm finally home. I slept at 2 in the morning, woke up at 7 in the morning, and took the train and subway to reach home at night. I'm really tired. But I'm finally home, and I'm fine. Starting from the 20th, I'll update at least 6 updates a day. I'll start updating when I wake up. I've been unstable during this period of time, and I can only ask for everyone's understanding. I'll make up for everything I owe. Chapter 622. Chu Fengmian's speed was extremely fast. Everyone could only see Chu Fengmian's figure turning into a shadow. In the next moment, he had already arrived in front of Lu Hua. His speed was so fast that even Lu Hua's expression changed. Lu Hua's figure suddenly moved and retreated, trying to increase the distance between him and Chu Fengmian. However, Chu Fengmian's speed was much faster than Lu Hua's. The tip of his sword suddenly slashed toward Lu Hua's chest. Boom! Countless thunderbolts gathered around Lu Hua's body in an instant. They directly transformed into a lightning armor that completely wrapped Lu Hua's body within it. At the same time, the other royal faction disciples also came out and condensed countless martial skills and even more lightning bolts. In front of the thunder armor, countless lightning bolts were densely packed. It was like a cocoon, wrapping Lu Hua and all the other royal faction disciples within. It was simply an absolute defense. This defense was something that even a high-level life and death expert couldn't break through even if he went all out. Rumble! Chu Fengmian's sword suddenly slashed down, clashing with the countless lightning bolts around Lu Hua. With a loud sound, the thunder cocoon collapsed. It was split open by Chu Fengmian's sword, and the countless lightning bolts within scattered in all directions. The power of Chu Fengmian's sword didn't decrease in the slightest after breaking the thunder cocoon. Instead, it became even stronger. Without any hesitation, Chu Fengmian's sword slashed down again, aiming at the thunder armor on Lu Hua's body. These royal faction disciples were just a bunch of ants. Chu Fengmian could easily kill them, but there was no meaning in killing them. Chu Fengmian only had one true enemy, Lu Hua. Lu Hua possessed the innate godly body and was extremely talented. Behind him was one of the biggest families in the North Sea Academy, the Lu family. Today, on the life and death arena, it was the best opportunity for Chu Fengmian to kill Lu Hua. If Lu Hua were to escape, it was very likely that the experts of the Lu family would come to deal with Chu Fengmian. At that time, although Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid, it would still be a troublesome matter. Even if he couldn't kill Lu Hua today, Chu Fengmian had to at least injure him severely and buy some time for Chu Fengmian. Once Chu Fengmian truly crossed the life and death calamity and entered the life and death realm, the Lu clan, Lu Hua, and even Yi Tianjun would all be ants in front of him. What Chu Fengmian lacked was time. Sword break. The sword in Chu Fengmian's hand fell again. The power contained in his sword was almost the true essence of swordsmanship. The essence of countless swordsmanship was all condensed into the sword. Hiss. The sword fell and slashed directly at the thunder armor condensed on Lu Hua's body. Chu Fengmian's simple sword strike contained an extremely profound profundity. When it landed on the thunder armor was immediately shattered. The protective armor that Lu Hua had relied on was now directly shattered by Chu Fengmian's sword. The Nine Realms Sword Art. Once the sword was drawn, the Nine Realms would submit. Puff! With the thunder armor shattered, Lu Hua's body was sent flying. He spurted out a large mouthful of blood and was forced to retreat continuously. Lu Hua's thunder armor has been shattered. This kind of sword art, this kind of strength, is this person still human? Cries of astonishment rang out crazily. In the distance, Gu Aihan and the other core disciples no longer looked at Chu Fengmian with contempt. Instead, they looked at him with shock. If Chu Fengmian defeated Long Weiyang, it could be said that he had taken advantage of the situation due to the fact that their strengths countered each other. But now, he had shattered Lu Hua's protective armor with a single sword strike. This was no longer something that could be explained by taking advantage of the situation. Moreover, Lu Hua was not alone. He was supported by the strength of countless royal faction disciples. It was as if Chu Fengmian was fighting against the entire royal faction, suppressing them completely. Damn it, how could this person's aptitude be so monstrous? No, I must ask the experts in the family to kill this brat. This brat has yet to pass the life and death tribulation. Once he passes the tribulation, especially if he attracts the 1,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation, or even the 10,000 Lightning Emperor tribulation, this person will be impossible to deal with. Lu Hua rapidly thought in his heart, already thinking of retreating. Right now, even with the strength of the entire royal faction, he was not Chu Fengmian's opponent. He could retreat now. As long as the experts of the Lu family arrived, they would be able to kill Chu Fengmian. In the Lu family, there were even experts at the peak of life and death realm, and even those who had stepped onto the life and death steps. As long as they took action, they would be able to kill Chu Fengmian. Thunder World Destruction. Lu Hua planned in his heart as he suddenly let out a long roar. Waves of spiritual energy suddenly burst out from his body, turning into countless thunderbolts. In the sky, countless thunderbolts roared and roared. They fell one after another, turning into thunder dragons that suddenly bombarded Chu Fengmian. Let's go! At the same time, Lu Hua's body also suddenly moved. He directly clawed at Long Weiyang, turning into a ray of light, wanting to leave the life and death arena. Escape? Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a mocking smile. He waved his hand, and the battle dragon claw suddenly struck towards the sky. With a single strike, countless thunder dragons in the sky were directly crushed by Chu Fengmian. At the same time, the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand moved again. With a slash of the sword, it split into millions. Tens of millions of sword chi suddenly shot out. Under Chu Fengmian's will, the sword chi instantly formed into a chain. 10,000 streams of sword intent sealed off the space once again, turning it into a prison of swords. Even at this time, you still want to escape with Long Weiyang? Chu Fengmian looked at Lu Hua and said coldly. The two of you will die today, and your royal faction will also be destroyed today. Only death awaits those who dare to provoke me. Chu Fengmian's mind moved, and the battle dragon claw formed in the sky, directly striking towards Long Weiyang. Boom! As the battle dragon claw fell, Long Weiyang's body was directly smashed, and even his soul was torn apart, thoroughly destroyed. This was the leader of the dragon faction, Long Weiyang. A core disciple, a giant of the northern Mang sacred region. Any one of these identities was enough to make countless people look up to him, but he was actually killed by Chu Fengmian just like that. Chapter 623. Someone like Long Weiyang. None of the northern Mang sacred region disciples seemed to have thought that there would be a day where he would fall. Now that Long Weiyang had been smashed to pieces by Chu Fengmian's war dragon claw, countless cultivators present were dumbfounded. This kind of tyranny simply surpassed all the big shots. Damn it! Looking at Long Weiyang dying in front of him, Lu Hua cursed in his heart. He had suddenly taken action this time because he wanted to save Long Weiyang and sell her some benefits. At that time, when he joined forces with Long Weiyang, they would be invincible in the northern Mang sacred region. But now, his plan was in vain. Not only did he fail to save Long Weiyang, but he also failed to save Long Weiyang. On the contrary, even he himself had fallen into the trap. Long Weiyang was killed by Chu Fengmian, and Lu Hua was forced into a desperate situation by Chu Fengmian. Damn it! All disciples of the royal faction, run! Lu Hua made a prompt decision and turned into a ray of light, ready to escape. Now that Long Weiyang had fallen, there was no point for him to stay any longer. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's strength had surpassed him. If he stayed any longer, he would be killed by Chu Fengmian sooner or later. Run! Run! As long as I leave the life and death ring, this kid won't dare to kill me even if he can defeat me. Lu Hua thought in his heart. As long as he didn't die and left, he could use the power of the Lu family to deal with Chu Fengmian. Since Long Weiyang had fallen, Lu Hua no longer had anything to do. He directly pushed the ray of light to the extreme. The speed of the ray of light was beyond anyone's expectation. It was so fast that he wanted to escape from the life and death ring. But when Chu Fengmian saw Lu Hua's ray of light, he sneered. With a wave of his hand, the surrounding space seemed to have expanded countless times. The life and death ring, which was originally a small area, now looked like it was endless. No matter how fast Lu Hua's ray of light was, he couldn't jump out of the area. Such a method was simply shocking. Elders, this. Several elders hiding in the void of Beimang's sacred region were stunned to see Long Weiyang die at the hands of Chu Fengmian. They originally thought that it would not be difficult for Long Weiyang to defeat Chu Fengmian. When the time came, they wanted to stop Long Weiyang. After all, Chu Fengmian had obtained the inheritance of the northern Mang sage. They didn't want Chu Fengmian to die at Long Weiyang's hands. But now, not only had Chu Fengmian killed Long Weiyang, he had even beaten Lu Hua into retreat. He did not only want to kill Long Weiyang. Even for Lu Hua, Chu Fengmian had the intention to kill him. Long Weiyang was just a disciple who had a fortuitous encounter. His death was nothing. Although they had lost a big shot, it was not a big deal for the Beimang Academy. But Lu Hua was different. Behind Lu Hua was the enormous Lu clan. Once the Lu clan made a move, it was enough to shake the entire Beimang Academy. If Lu Hua was killed by Chu Fengmian, the Lu clan would definitely not let the matter rest. The entire northern Mang sacred region would be shaken. The Lu clan is about to make a move. Look! One of the elders suddenly spoke. Everyone followed his gaze and saw a streak of light flying over from afar. This figure seemed to be a white-haired old man. Seeing Lu Hua being chased by Chu Fengmian, the old man's face was filled with anger. Rumble! An incomparably huge palace suddenly fell from the sky. This palace was golden and dazzling. It was much more glorious than any palace in the world. Golden Azura Palace. Seeing the palace suddenly descend, countless cultivators exclaimed in surprise. That's Golden Azura Palace. It's a heaven-grade spiritual artifact, one of the supreme treasures of the Lu clan. The Lu clan's people are here. Bai Xian exclaimed from the side. This golden Azura palace has always been under the control of an elder of the Lu clan, Lu Quebec. This Lu Ke is a high-level life and death realm expert, close to the peak of life and death realm. Retreat. Although Lu Ke was only an elder of the Northern Sea Academy, he had the backing of the Lu clan. However, with the Lu family behind him and his strength, Lu Ke's position in the North Sea Academy was not inferior to many of the Grand Elders. Many of the Grand Elders could only sit on equal footing with him and show him some courtesy. Oh? Chu Fengmian's eyes also looked at the sky. Looking at Lu Quebec, Lu Ke's strength was slightly stronger than the undying demon ancestors. He was indeed only a step away from the peak of life and death realm. In the Northern Sea Academy, he was an expert of the upper echelon. Chu Fengmian could feel that the moment the golden Azura palace descended, Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy was tightly suppressed. It seemed to want to completely suppress Chu Fengmian. Junior, you dare to kill my Lu clan's people? Do you really think there's no one in my Lu clan? An old voice suddenly descended from the sky. The moment this old voice rang out, it contained an endless amount of killing intent that caused people to tremble in fear. Obviously, an extremely dignified big shot had descended. This kind of high and mighty tone showed that he didn't put Chu Fengmian in his eyes at all. It was as if Chu Fengmian was an ant that he could easily crush. Humph, Lu clan. Lu clan dared to provoke me, so I'll destroy them? Today, Lu Hua must fall. Chu Fengmian looked at the sky and shouted loudly. With a move of his mind, the battle dragon claw condensed once again, and suddenly bombarded Lu Hua. Chu Fengmian wanted to kill Lu Hua in front of Lu Quebec, damn it. Arrogant junior. You're courting death. Lu Ke saw that Chu Fengmian didn't care about him at all, and even wanted to kill Lu Hua in front of him. He was instantly enraged. The aura of the Golden Azura Palace suddenly increased, and the entire Golden Azura Palace became incomparably huge. Like an incomparably huge mountain, it directly descended from the sky and pressed down on Chu Fengmian. You think you can deal with me by relying on a celestial spiritual tool? Chu Fengmian looked at the Golden Azura Palace crashing down and pressing down on him with an extremely calm expression. When it came to spiritual tools, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid of anyone. He had the ancestral dragon's paragon sword and the abundant lush steel in his hands. Moreover, Chu Fengmian also had the Mortal Emperor's Jar, an extreme immoral weapon. This Lu Ke wanted to suppress Chu Fengmian with a celestial spiritual tool? How could it be that easy? Dragon Roar. Chu Fengmian held the ancestral dragon's paragon sword in his hand and suddenly moved. The sword in his hand turned into a ray of sword energy, like a battle dragon, piercing through the clouds. In an instant, the aura of the Golden Azura Palace was directly broken, and the Golden Azura Palace was directly sent flying. Chapter 624. What? Even Lu Ke, who was in the sky, cried out in surprise when he saw the Golden Hall being sent flying. The Golden Light Palace was a heaven-class spiritual weapon. Even a superior Earth-class spiritual weapon would be crushed by it. But now, Chu Fengmian had blocked the Golden Hall, and the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand wasn't damaged in the slightest. Clearly, the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand was also a heaven-grade spirit tool, which was why it could resist the Golden Hall. Kid, you actually have a heaven-grade spirit tool. How could a newcomer of the North Mang Academy have a heaven-grade spirit tool? I suspect that you're a spy sent by the Earth Demon Sect. I'll capture you and bring you to the punishment hall for a thorough investigation. Lu Ke looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. I'll suppress you first to prevent you from causing trouble. As he spoke, Lu Ke's aura rose steadily. His strength nearing the peak of the life and death realm was fully displayed. Waves of pressure crazily fell on Chu Fengmian's body. Under the infusion of his spirit power, the Golden Hall became incomparably huge again. Like a mountain, it pressed down on Chu Fengmian. Not good. The faces of the elders hidden in the void changed greatly. Elder Lu Ke, it's not good for you to interfere in the exchange of pointers between the younger generation. With your status, attacking a junior is really damaging to your status. Please stop. The void trembled, and an elder leaped out from it. This elder's strength was comparable to the undying demon ancestors, but he was still inferior to Lu Quebec. He suddenly appeared in front of Chu Fengmian and blocked Lu Kei's attack. Chu Fengmian had obtained the inheritance of the Northern Mang sage and would be heavily nurtured by the North Mang Academy in the future. He couldn't die here today. That elder had appeared with the intention of protecting Chu Fengmian from Lu Quebec Changji? You dare to get involved in this mess? Lu Kei said abruptly as she looked at Elder Changji. This kid dares to injure our Lu family's disciple and wants to kill Lu Hua. Stop? What a joke. Anyone who dares to go against the Lu clan must die. Lu Kei's expression did not change when he saw Elder Changji's appearance. The arrogance in his words seemed to be even more arrogant than before. Changji, how dare you go against my Lu clan with your measly strength? Now scram. This brat must die today. Lu Kei's face was filled with rage and the murderous intent in his eyes was thick. It was obvious that he was determined to kill. Elder Lu Kei, this person is someone the Academy wants to protect. Please calm down. Elder Changji's face also revealed a hint of anger. He was also an elder of the Northern Mang sacred region. Now that he had stepped forward to mediate, he did not expect that Lu Kei would not give him any face at all. This made him extremely angry. Academy? Changji, how dare you use the Academy to pressure me? Lu Kei looked at Elder Changji and said viciously. Why aren't you scramming? I'm going to suppress you first. Do you really think that you can act so presumptuously in front of me, Lu Kei? Scram! Lu Kei waved his hand and suddenly attacked Elder Changji. Elder Changji also gathered his spiritual energy and tried to resist, but Lu Kei could only send him flying with a palm. Even though they were both high-level life and death realm experts, there was still a huge gap between their strength. Brat, if you obediently kneel down and commit suicide, I can leave your corpse intact. After sending Elder Changji flying, Lu Kei looked at Chu Fengmian and said. If this old man makes a move, you won't even have a chance to leave your corpse intact. Is that so? Lu Kei, let's see how you're going to kill him. An extremely cold voice suddenly descended from the sky. Hearing this voice, Chu Fengmian's unchanging expression finally changed a little. A figure suddenly descended from the sky. This figure was entirely white, and the moment she descended, the world was filled with traces of coldness, as if a goddess had descended. Hanueli. Seeing this figure appear, Lu Kei's expression suddenly changed. Although Hanueli was also a newcomer, even he didn't dare to look down on her. After all, Hanueli was a genius who had passed through the Thousand Thunder Emperor tribulation. Although she had just entered life and death realm, her strength wasn't below some of the higher-ups. You've come? Chu Fengmian looked at Hanueli and sized her up with a smile. You've already passed the life and death tribulation and entered life and death realm. The power in your body should be easy to control, right? Hanueli looked at Chu Fengmian, and the coldness on her face completely disappeared, revealing a trace of joy. Sure enough, you've also come to Northern Mang sacred region. Let me deal with today's matter. You'll deal with it? Hearing Hanueli's words, Lu Kei's expression suddenly changed, revealing a trace of anger. Hanueli, I know that you're a genius of Northern Mang Academy and are valued by many old antiques. However, you've just entered life and death realm, yet you want to contend against this old man? Aren't you a bit too arrogant? Speaking up to here, Lu Kei's tone suddenly changed. Out of respect for you, Sang, I won't kill this brat for now. However, since this brat dared to chase after our Lu family's people, he must apologize. The spiritual sword in his hand must be handed over to our Lu family as compensation. This way, our Lu family won't pursue his responsibility. How about it? Seeing Hanueli's sudden appearance, Lu Kei's tone relaxed a lot. Although Hanueli had just entered life and death realm, anyone could feel that her aura was unfathomable. Hanueli was standing in front of Lu Kei and feeling his pressure, yet she wasn't affected in the slightest. This was a clear indication of Hanueli's current strength. Even though Lu Kei's words were extremely arrogant, the crowd was able to tell that Lu Kei had taken a step back. the Lu family's people had actually taken a step back. All of this was because of Han Yueli's appearance. Otherwise, with today's grudge, Lu Kei's feelings towards Chu Fengmian would clearly not rest until he was dead. However, after hearing Lu Kei's words, Han Yueli's face only showed some impatience as he indifferently spat out a single word. Scram! What did you say? Lu Kei suddenly stomped his feet, causing the ground to shake continuously. I'll give you some face, Han Yueli, don't be ungrateful. Scram! Otherwise, you'll die. Han Yueli's words were still incomparably cold, but anyone could hear the killing intent in them. The instant he spoke, Han Yueli moved. Countless amounts of spiritual energy condensed in his palm, forming an ice sword. The moment this ice sword formed, everyone felt a chill run down their spines, as if they would be killed by this ice sword in the next moment. Today's third update will continue. Xiao Yu's condition today wasn't very good, but he said that he would still write an explosive update. Even if he had to stay up all night, he would still continue writing. Chapter 625. Wait. Just as Han Yueli was about to unleash her sword, Chu Fengmian quietly spoke and stopped Han Yueli. What? Kid, are you afraid? Are you afraid that your little lover will die in my hands? Lu Kei looked at Chu Fengmian and laughed. Then kneeled down obediently and apologized to our Lu family. Hand over the sword in your hand, and I'll let you go this time. Chu Fengmian looked at Lu Kei with disdain. This old man doesn't need you to do anything. I'll deal with him. Chu Fengmian said casually. What? Is Chu Fengmian crazy? Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, the crowd thought they were hallucinating. Chu Fengmian wanted to deal with Lu Kei himself? Lu Kei was an elder of Beimang's sacred region, and his strength was close to that of a supreme elder. He was close to the peak of life and death realm, while Chu Fengmian was only a divine force realm martial artist. He hadn't even passed the life and death tribulation. Although Chu Fengmian was able to defeat Long Weiyang and Lu Hua, he had already displayed his strength. But this strength was still far from the peak of life and death realm. Countless people looked at Chu Fengmian, thinking that he must be crazy to say such crazy words. This was no longer a reckless act, but a suicidal act. This Chu Fengmian is indeed a lunatic. He's going to court death. Gu Yahan looked at Chu Fengmian from afar and said coldly. When he saw Han Yueli and Chu Fengmian standing together, he almost went crazy with jealousy. He couldn't wait for Lu Kei to attack and kill Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, what are you saying? Elder Changji, who was sent flying, hurriedly yelled at Chu Fengmian. Are you crazy? You should leave quickly. There's nothing here, but you have something to do. Han Yueli's appearance was enough to ease the situation, and prevent Lu Kei from killing Chu Fengmian. But now, Chu Fengmian wanted to court death. This infuriated Elder Changji so much that he was on the verge of going crazy. Chu Fengmian, since you don't know what's good for you, I'll kill you right now. A man hides behind a woman every day. Come out. Lu Kei looked at Chu Fengmian and said with a ferocious gaze. Who is he? He was an elder of the northern Mang sacred region. It was one thing for him to be suppressed by Han Yueli. After all, Han Yueli was a popular figure in the eyes of many old antiques of the Northern Mang Academy. His aptitude was extremely high, but Chu Fengmian had always been an ant that could be easily crushed in his heart. Now that Chu Fengmian dared to provoke him, he was furious to the extreme. Chu Fengmian, don't go out. Elder Changji hurriedly shouted. Let me deal with him. Chu Fengmian ignored Elder Changji's words and only glanced at Han Yueli. Seeing Chu Fengmian's gaze, Han Yueli hesitated for a moment, then nodded. After being with Chu Fengmian for a long time, Han Yueli was used to trusting Chu Fengmian, even though Chu Fengmian's current realm was far from Lu Kei's. However, Han Yueli also believed that Chu Fengmian could defeat Lu Quebec. Han Yueli whispered. Be careful. It's fine. He's just an old man. I don't need to use too many tricks to deal with him. Chu Fengmian said casually. His body moved, and he walked out in an instant. Almost in an instant, Lu Kei's body moved. His speed was extremely fast. In an instant, he had already grabbed the golden Luo palace and charged towards Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian kept calling him an old man, which made Lu Kai extremely angry. With his status, in the Northern Sea Sanctuary, even in the entire Northern Sea Academy, no one dared to disrespect him. Even Yi Tianjun had to be respectful in front of him. Even the Supreme Elder could only be on equal footing in front of him. Given his status, when had he ever been called an old man by anyone? How could he tolerate this? The moment he saw Chu Fengmian come out, he had already gathered his spiritual energy. The Golden Palace suddenly became 1,000 meters tall, like a mountain, and directly bombarded Chu Fengmian. Countless restrictive arrays on the Golden Palace were activated at once, causing the power of the Golden Palace to skyrocket. Countless onlookers felt the pressure from the Golden Luo Hall and quickly retreated. "Boy, since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish." Lu Kai roared crazily. "Great golden net." Following his roar, the Golden Palace suddenly split into rays of golden light, which formed a large net and directly shrouded Chu Fengmian, trapping him within. Every ray of golden light was indestructible. After all, it was a heaven-grade spiritual artifact. Even one ray of golden light was 1,000 times tougher than an earth-grade spiritual artifact. It shrouded Chu Fengmian, as if there was no way for him to escape. "Oh no!" Seeing Lu Kai's attack, Elder Changji gathered his spiritual energy again, wanting to help block it. However, before he could make a move, a ray of sword light was faster than him. This ray of sword light came from Chu Fengmian's hand. The ancestral dragon supreme sword in his hand let out a dragon roar, and a ray of sword chi immediately slashed out. Whoosh! This ray of sword chi pierced through the clouds, and the great golden light net was directly torn apart by this ray of sword chi. This great golden light net was formed by a heaven-grade spiritual artifact, but now it was directly cut apart by Chu Fengmian's sword. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's feet moved, and his body appeared in front of Lu Kai in an instant. "Old man, do you think you can kill me with just you alone? I've said it before, it's easy for me to deal with you." Chu Fengmian looked at Lu Kai with a cold smile. He did not make a move just now, not because he was afraid of Lu Kai, but because Lu Kai really thought that he could easily defeat Chu Fengmian. If Chu Fengmian had not comprehended the Nine Realms Sword principle, his strength would have been on par with Lu Quebec. At that time, Chu Fengmian might have been able to defeat Lu Kai, but he would have had to use all his trump cards and pay a great price. However, things were different now. Chu Fengmian had comprehended the Nine Realms Sword principle, and although his realm did not change, his strength was several times stronger than before. Now, Lu Kai would be defeated in 3 moves by Chu Fengmian. "You will be defeated in 3 moves." As Chu Fengmian said this, the sword in his hand moved. This sword was so fast that no one could see clearly how it was slashed out. In the blink of an eye, thousands of rays of sword chi appeared at the same time, engulfing the entire combat ring. Chapter 626. The sword was so fast that no one could see it clearly. Lu Kai was the same. Even with his strength, he could not see where Chu Fengmian's sword came from. Although Chu Fengmian's 9-region sword principle was only one, it had thousands of variations. It could be used to break through the enemy's strength, and it could also be used to dominate with speed. After all, it was a sword principle that had been comprehended by the master of sword principle in his lifetime. The sword had thousands of variations. It was a sword that was extremely fast. It was faster than any sword principle in the world. Boundless sword chi swept across the entire life and death ring. It was impossible for anyone to dodge it. The target of all the sword chi was Lu Quebec. Thousands of sword chi slashed towards Lu Kai at almost the same time. Arrogant Junior. So what if your sword skills are good? Don't even think about hurting me if you don't have the strength. Lu Kai shook in the air. The golden light net suddenly retracted and turned into the shape of the Golden Eye Palace. At the same time, Lu Kai's body entered the Golden Eye Palace. He blocked Chu Fengmian's sword principle. Countless sword chi slashed at the Golden Eye Palace. Hissing sounds could be heard, but they could not break the defense of the Goldeneye Palace. The Goldeneye Palace is actually a tortoiseshell. As long as one is inside it, he will be invincible. Some of the spectators looked at the Goldeneye Palace and said, Chu Fengmian's sword is indeed extremely fast. However, it can't break the defense of the Goldeneye Palace. In this way, Chu Fengmian's spiritual power will be exhausted sooner or later. Liu Kei will still win this battle. You think you can block my sword by hiding in a tortoiseshell? Chu Fengmian looked at Liu Kei's actions and suddenly shouted coldly. In front of my sword, you will die even if you hide at the end of the world. Sword! Chu Fengmian let out a long roar. His body suddenly exploded. The veins on his body bulged. The sword essence on his body and the 12,960 drops of ancient war dragon blood essence were all condensed. The power in his body began to rise. Countless power accumulated in the ancestral dragon supreme sword in Chu Fengmian's hand. What is Chu Fengmian trying to do? Could it be that he wants to break through the defense of the Goldeneye Hall? The strongest point of the Goldeneye Palace is its defense. Even a peak life and death realm expert might not be able to break it. Is this kid crazy? Reckless. Too reckless. If he consumes his spiritual power like this, I'm afraid that his spiritual power will be depleted one moment. He won't be able to fight against Liu Kei. Before the crowd could finish speaking, Chu Fengmian's sword moved again. This time, however, his sword changed. It was also a swordsmanship. However, the power of this sword strike was completely different from before. Chu Fengmian's sword strike just now was a sword of absolute speed. It was a strike with extreme speed. But now, Chu Fengmian's sword was completely different. It was a sword condensed from pure power, a seamless heavy sword. Under the power of this sword, there was almost no flaw to be found. It was a sword of pure strength. These two sword arts could be said to be completely different. They could even be said to be polar opposites. However, they were actually used by Chu Fengmian. Moreover, they used the same sword art. This made the countless martial artists present somewhat unable to understand the mysteries behind it. Hiding in a turtle shell, you think I can't kill you? Chu Fengmian looked at the Goldeneye Palace and sneered. Old man, just take a look. Let's see how long you can hide. As he spoke, the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand descended. As the sword descended, the heavens and earth trembled. This was an extremely tyrannical power. Waves of spiritual power burst out from the sword edge. Just the aftermath alone was enough to kill countless people. Even the surrounding space started to crack. Only those close to the peak of life and death realm could break this space with the help of some magical arts. Even peak life and death realm experts couldn't do what Chu Fengmian did, which was to shatter the space with pure strength. Chu Fengmian's sword was actually a shocking move. Those who previously thought that Chu Fengmian was overestimating himself had all shut their mouths. Such strength. What Lu Hua? What Yi Tianjun? In front of Chu Fengmian, they simply couldn't be compared. This. Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengmian and was stunned. She had known Chu Fengmian for a long time, so she thought she already knew Chu Fengmian's methods. But now, this sword was simply beyond her understanding. Bai Xian looked at Chu Fengmian as if she was looking at a black hole, as if she could never see the bottom. A peak divine power realm martial artist was fighting against a high-level life and death realm martial artist who was close to peak life and death realm. If this were to spread out, no one would believe it. This was simply like an ant fighting against an elephant. And now, it was Liu Kei who was forced to hide in the Goldeneye Palace, not daring to come out. And now, Chu Fengmian had the upper hand and actually wanted to break the Goldeneye Palace. Everything had been turned upside down. Crazy. Crazy. Is this strength even human? A seed disciple was stunned, almost lifeless. No matter what, he would never have thought that a cultivator at the limit of the divine force realm would be able to reach such strength. They were in the same realm as him. However, before Chu Fengmian, he wasn't even considered an ant. Sword power. Breaking mountains. Chu Fengmian let out a long roar, and the power of his sword became a lot stronger. The moment this power finished accumulating, it suddenly came crashing down. This sword chi was over 10,000 meters tall. It was as if anyone who dared to stand in the way of this sword chi would be destroyed. Rumble! This sword of pure power directly smashed onto the GoldenEye Palace. Countless restrictions and formations on the GoldenEye Palace were activated crazily to resist Chu Fengmian's sword. Peng! But in an instant, the restrictions and formations on the GoldenEye Palace were completely destroyed, shattering one by one. The GoldenEye Palace shook violently, as if it was about to fall apart. What is this? Why is this strength so tyrannical? Is this person still a divine power realm expert? This strength is comparable to a peak life and death realm expert. Inside the GoldenEye Palace, Liu Kei was shaken to the core by this strength. He roared crazily in his heart, as if he couldn't understand how he had fallen to such a state. It was as if he was a divine power realm expert, dragging out an ignoble existence, while Chu Fengmian was a life and death realm expert, chasing after him. Liu Kei couldn't understand how Chu Fengmian's strength could be so powerful. Today's 5th update, continue. I won't sleep until the 6th. Chapter 627. Chu Fengmian's sword landed directly on the GoldenEye Palace. As a heaven-grade spiritual artifact, the GoldenEye Palace's restrictions had been broken. Even Liu Kei, who was in the middle of it, was injured. Even through a heaven-grade spiritual artifact, Liu Kei was seriously injured. Liu Kei felt that if the GoldenEye Palace had not been there, he would have been killed. Right now, he was most likely going to die. This power was simply too terrifying. What made Liu Kei even more terrified was that the restrictions and arrays of the GoldenEye Palace were all broken. It seemed that the GoldenEye Palace was going to fall apart under this sword. Even a heaven-grade spiritual artifact was about to be broken. This kind of power was actually achieved by a divine power realm warrior. No one would believe it if they heard about it. Liu Kei roared crazily and unleashed all the spiritual energy in his body. Waves of spiritual energy were channeled into the GoldenEye Palace to help it resist the power of Chu Fengmian's sword. In an instant. In Liu Kei's eyes, it was as long as countless years. When the restrictions and arrays of the GoldenEye Palace were almost broken, the power of Chu Fengmian's sword finally weakened a little. I blocked it. Liu Kei was overjoyed. This sword was probably Chu Fengmian's trump card. As long as he could block it, Chu Fengmian would not be able to hurt him anymore. However, Liu Kei's joy did not last for more than a second. Chu Fengmian, who was outside in the sky. The ancestral dragon supreme sword in his hand had finished accumulating power once again. Another sword chi that was 10,000 meters long suddenly descended from the sky. This sword blade landed on the GoldenEye Palace again. The power of this sword was not weaker than the previous one. In fact, it was even stronger than the previous one. How is this possible? He still has spiritual power? Liu Kei was dumbfounded when he saw this scene. He originally thought that with Chu Fengmian's realm, it was already not easy for him to forcefully execute such an attack once. Not only Liu Kei, but the countless warriors present also did not expect this. Chu Fengmian could actually unleash another sword attack. No one could react in time. When the sword landed on the GoldenEye Palace, the broken GoldenEye Palace was destroyed in an instant. Everything collapsed and was destroyed. One of the most precious treasures of the Liu family, the heaven-grade Golden Hall, had been shattered by Chu Fengmian. The moment the GoldenEye Hall shattered, countless people's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. This was a heaven-grade spirit artifact. Breaking an earth-grade spirit artifact was not a big deal because the toughness of a heaven-grade spirit artifact was probably tougher than 100 earth-grade spirit artifacts added together. Even peak life and death experts couldn't do it, but Chu Fengmian had done it. Pooh! A figure flew out from the fragment of the GoldenEye Hall. This figure was none other than Liu Quebec. The aftermath of the destruction of the GoldenEye Hall had severely injured him. Liu Kei spat out a mouthful of blood. She had lost most of her spiritual power and was on the verge of death. Moreover, the Golden Light Hall had already consumed 99% of Chu Fengmian's sword energy. The aftermath was enough to seriously injure Lu Quebec. If there was just a little bit more energy, Lu Ke would have already died. Come here. Chu Fengmian waved his hand and caught Lu Ke's body in his hand. No matter how much Lu Ke struggled, he couldn't escape from Chu Fengmian's hand. Lu Ke was like an ant in Chu Fengmian's hand. The surroundings of the life and death arena were completely silent. Watching the scene unfold before their eyes, they felt as if they were in a dream. Especially Lu Ke, who was caught in Chu Fengmian's hand. This scene was simply beyond everyone's understanding. He's no longer human. Genius, monstrous, these words are an insult to Chu Fengmian. Some seed disciples were incomparably disappointed. Their aptitudes were extremely high. Those who could become seed disciples were peerless geniuses outside of the northern region. But now, their pride was shattered in front of Chu Fengmian. Genius? In front of Chu Fengmian, no one dared to be called a genius. Even Han Yueli's eyes were filled with shock. She thought that she would be one step ahead of Chu Fengmian since she had passed the life and death tribulation and possessed the profound cold body. But now, it seemed that even if Chu Fengmian had not passed the life and death tribulation, his strength was no weaker than Han Yueli. This was the worst outcome for Lu Ke if Han Yueli took action. Chu Fengmian, let me go quickly. If you don't let me go, it'll be your time to die. Lu Ke was humiliated to the extreme by being held in Chu Fengmian's hand. He was a great figure, an elder of northern Mang's sacred region. But now, he was being held in Chu Fengmian's hand like a chick in front of everyone. This was unacceptable to him. You're about to die and you still dare to threaten me? Hearing Lu Ke's words, Chu Fengmian raised his eyebrows and said, Anyone who dares to go against me will die, including you. Have mercy. Elder Changji's face changed when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. If you kill Lu Ke, you'll have a falling out with the Lu family. The Lu family can cover the sky with one hand in Northern Mang Academy. You can't kill him. Is that so? If I don't kill him, the Lu family will deal with me. Besides, no one can threaten me. Chu Fengmian sneered, ignoring Elder Changji's words. Let Lu Ke and Lu Hua go today. With today's grudge, even if he let them go, they wouldn't have a good ending. When the time comes, the two of them would come to kill Chu Fengmian again. The Lu family would also come after Chu Fengmian. Since the grudge couldn't be resolved, what was there to care about? He would kill as many as he could. Chu Fengmian never had the habit of letting his enemies go. Die! Chu Fengmian shouted coldly as he exerted force in his hand. Thunder God's spear. At this moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly fell from the sky and bombarded Chu Fengmian. It was Lu Hua. While Chu Fengmian was fighting with Lu Ke, Lu Hua had been recuperating and accumulating strength. Suddenly, he attacked. The Thunder God's spear was infused with all his strength. It was a sure kill attack. You want to ambush me with such a trick? Chu Fengmian glanced at Lu Hua and waved his hand. The lightning god's spear was held in his hand. With a squeeze of his palm, it shattered like a piece of paper. I wanted to let you live a little longer. Since you're in a hurry to die, you can die together with Lu Ke. So that you won't be lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs. Chu Fengmian's palm moved and Lu Hua was also caught in his hand. Let's die together. Today's 6th watch is complete. He rode until 6 in the morning. He had stayed up all night. At least he had fulfilled his promise. Today's 6th watch is complete. He could sleep now. He continued writing after waking up. Thank you for your support. Chapter 628. Spiritual energy condensed in Chu Fengmian's palm. Lu Ke and Lu Hua were about to be crushed to death in the next moment. In Chu Fengmian's palm, Lu Ke and Lu Hua's faces were deathly pale. They were scared half to death. The two of them would never have dreamed that they would be so close to death one day. Just as Chu Fengmian made his move and condensed his spiritual energy, a voice suddenly came from the sky. "Junior, you've gone too far." That voice was illusory. No one was able to tell where it was coming from. "Who is it?" Chu Fengmian suddenly raised his head. His expression abruptly changed. He didn't expect that someone would interfere at this time. "Junior, you dare to treat our Lu family like this? Do you think we have no one to back us up?" Those imposing voices once again sounded from the sky. The meaning behind the words spoken by the owners of those voices was that they were truly furious. Evidently, they were extremely furious. "Lu family! Lu family!" Chu Fengmian was shocked. Even Chu Fengmian seemed unable to detect the true identity of the owner of this voice. It was obvious that this was a big shot from Lu family. His strength far surpassed Lu Kei's. Even Chu Fengmian couldn't see through him. He was at least an existence that surpassed the peak of life and death realm. Ancestor Lu Qianren. At the instant they heard that voice, Lu Kei and Lu Hua both had overjoyed expressions on their faces and shouted loudly. "Ancestor Lu Qianren, save us. With this person's strength, he's definitely not from our Northern Mang Academy. He's most likely a spy from the Demo sect. Ancestor, please take action and subdue him. Ancestor." Hearing this title, there was not a single person present who did not have a change in expression. This title didn't only represent the Lu family's ancestor. In the Northern Mang Academy, only those who had surpassed the peak of life and death realm and stepped onto the life and death steps were qualified to be called ancestor. Those who could be called ancestor could be placed in the Sage Hall in the future and be admired by others. Such an old antique suddenly made his move. His target was Chu Fengmian. "Humph!" A cold snort resounded from the sky, vividly displaying the anger of the ancestor. "Suppress." As soon as the word was spat out, an incomparably huge mountain suddenly descended from the sky. Mountain peak? When Chu Fengmian looked over and took a closer look, this mountain peak was actually just a finger. A finger suddenly shot towards Chu Fengmian. It was a simple finger, but the spiritual power contained in it condensed the finger into the size of a 1,000-meter-tall mountain. It suddenly fell from the sky and suppressed Chu Fengmian. "Ancestor, please calm down. This person is a genius that our academy's higher-ups want to nurture. Ancestor, please be magnanimous." One of the elders suddenly made a move and advised the sky. However, before he could finish his sentence, a word descended from the sky. "Scram." The word scram was like a huge gust of wind from a fist. It landed on the elder's chest and sent him flying. This elder was also a high-level life and death expert. In the North Sea Academy, he would be one of the higher-ups. In the outside world, he would be an influential figure. However, in front of Ancestor Lu Qianren, he couldn't even utter a single word. What kind of strength was this? A high-level life and death expert couldn't even utter a single word in front of him. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, he could easily defeat a high-level life and death expert. However, it was impossible for Chu Fengmian to defeat a high-level life and death expert with a single word. Even if Chu Fengmian used the power of Heavenly Dragon's music, he might not be able to injure a high-level life and death expert. Moreover, Chu Fengmian could see that Ancestor Lu Qianren's words weren't some secret art. It was just a simple word, yet it could reach such a level. With such strength, even if 100 or 1,000 high-level life and death experts attacked at the same time, they would still be far from being Ancestor Lu Qianren's match. Without a doubt, Ancestor Lu Qianren had surpassed the peak of life and death realm and stepped onto the steps of life and death. I wonder how many steps Ancestor Lu Qianren has stepped onto. The steps of life and death have a total of 9 steps. The gap between each step is like a heavenly ravine that can't be crossed. A single word only injured the elder, but didn't kill him. Ancestor Lu Qianren's strength shouldn't have reached such a high level. If he had stepped onto the 3rd or 4th step, I'm afraid that Ancestor Lu Qianren would have died with a single word. Chu Fengmian analyzed Ancestor Lu Qianren's strength in his heart. Even so, Chu Fengmian felt extremely uneasy. After all, Ancestor Lu Qianren was a great figure who had surpassed the peak of life and death realm. If Ancestor Lu Qianren made a move, Chu Fengmian might not be able to resist him. Chu Fengmian didn't expect that he would force Lu Kai and Lu Hua to such an extent that the Ancestor Lu Qianren would disregard everything and make a move. This kind of Ancestor Lu Qianren usually spent most of their time comprehending cultivation realms, wanting to step onto the higher steps. Normally, they wouldn't participate in the countless important matters that happened in the academy. Now that Chu Fengmian had forced them to wake up, they were immediately enraged when they saw Chu Fengmian chasing after the Lu clan's people. Ancestor Lu Qianren, please calm down. Another elder hurriedly flew over and tried to persuade Ancestor Lu Qianren. This person has obtained the inheritance of Hall of All Life. You can't kill him. Scram. A bunch of trash dare to sit opposite our Lu clan? If you don't scram, you'll die. Lu Qianren's voice was tyrannical to the extreme. Now, no matter who dared to stop him, he wouldn't give them any face. Junior. Die for this old man. Rumble. Lu Qianren's fingers suddenly fell from the sky and bombarded Chu Fengmian. The surrounding space began to shatter layer by layer at the edge of the finger. Even the space laws of Beimang's sacred region couldn't withstand such a terrifying power. Not only the power, but the speed of the finger had also reached a completely different level. It seemed slow, but in the blink of an eye, it had already landed on Chu Fengmian's head. With such speed, there was no way to escape. Oh no! Chu Fengmian's face suddenly changed. The finger's speed was beyond his imagination. It was impossible to dodge it at such speed. The only way now was to take it head-on. Today's first update. I've been writing for a long time. I feel like I'm going to stay up late again. Thank you to Chuanzai, Kitchen Knife Gang's leader, Ming, 185****6449, First Love Monster Axezy for the tip. Thank you for your support. I can't repay you, so I can only explode. Chapter 629. In an instant, Chu Fengmian exerted all the power in his body. Chu Fengmian's blood was boiling. Clearly, Lu Qianren's terrifying power was causing his blood to boil. His bloodline was the bloodline of the ancient war dragon. Even if the ancient war dragon were to face an existence that was stronger than others, it would still face it head-on and would never back down. The battle dragon art would only unleash its most terrifying power when it encountered an increasingly powerful opponent. Battle dragon's might. Chu Fengmian's body suddenly roared and transformed into the appearance of the ancient battle dragon. Holding the ancestral dragon paragon sword, he suddenly slashed out. Chu Fengmian's body emitted countless powerful forces. The ancient battle dragon's bloodline, his 9-domain sword art, and the ancient god of slaughter's shadow were all activated and condensed. Waves of power were added to Chu Fengmian's body. It's impossible even for someone who has stepped onto the life and death steps to suppress me. Chu Fengmian shouted crazily. Hiss. This sword was made up of pure power. It suddenly slashed out, and the power contained in it was terrifying to the extreme. It directly blasted towards the finger in the sky. Boom! The two forces crazily collided in the sky. Chu Fengmian's sword slashed at Lu Qianren's finger, but it couldn't shake Lu Qianren's finger. In this finger, Chu Fengmian felt that it was beyond life and death. It was a power that was completely different from that of a warrior. Life-shattering. The first step of the life and death steps, the life-shattering realm. Lu Qianren had now stepped into this realm. Stepping into the life-shattering realm was to shatter one's own fate and truly transcend everything. Only those who had stepped into this realm could be considered a true expert, one who was qualified to leave behind records. While Chu Fengmian was deep in thought, the power of this finger had already bombarded Chu Fengmian's body. Bam! Chu Fengmian's body was directly shattered by the power of this finger. Chu Fengmian's body was shattered bit by bit. The power of this finger was extremely terrifying. It didn't just crush Chu Fengmian's sword. The power of one of the fingers struck Chu Fengmian's body. Chu Fengmian's body began to shatter. Cracks appeared one after another. Chu Fengmian's body was now like a spirit artifact, directly shattering. Chu Fengmian's body had already reached the pinnacle, and it had been tempered by the sky crystal. However, Lu Qianren's finger had shattered it. This was the strength of an old antique who had stepped onto the life and death steps. However, even in the face of such a powerful force, Chu Fengmian's expression remained as resolute as ever. His body began to shatter bit by bit, but at the same time, the battle dragon power in Chu Fengmian's bloodline was completely unleashed. All the power of the Builder Tree branch from the last sacred sacrifice had been integrated into Chu Fengmian's battle dragon bloodline. At this critical moment, all of his power was unleashed. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's shattered body began to reconstruct itself. Lu Qianren's finger continued to shatter Chu Fengmian's body, but at the same time, the power of his bloodline allowed Chu Fengmian's body to reform itself. Battle Dragon Everlasting. I am the Battle Dragon. Chu Fengmian let out a long roar. His body was completely reconstructed with a loud bang. He had actually withstood the power of the finger. He's not dead? How is this possible? This kid actually withstood Ancestor Lu Qianren's finger attack. Although it was just a finger attack, it still surpassed the peak of the life and death realm. He seems to be unscathed. What a terrifying recovery power. Even if he didn't die, he would at least be seriously injured. But now, he has completely recovered. He's not human. Even the recovery power of demonic beasts can't compare to his. How did he do it? The venerables stared at Chu Fengmian in disbelief. Chu Fengmian had actually withstood the finger attack. This was the attack of an old ancestor. It should be known that even if everyone present joined forces, they wouldn't be a match for this old ancestor. A person who had stepped onto the life and death steps had already surpassed the peak of the life and death realm. Under such a finger attack, Chu Fengmian had actually survived. This was simply unbelievable. Especially when Chu Fengmian's body had already begun to shatter. Under such circumstances, even if Chu Fengmian had withstood the attack, he would have been seriously injured. But now, Chu Fengmian's body didn't have the slightest injury. His battle dragon bloodline and the power of the creation tree branch had completely healed his injuries. This kind of recovery power had surpassed the limits of demonic beasts and all living creatures. Even some body cultivators couldn't achieve this. Even the undying demon venerable would have fallen under this finger attack. But, Chu Fengmian had truly survived. Life and death steps are indeed powerful. The life and death steps are completely different from the life and death realm. This kind of power surpasses the peak of the life and death realm by 10-fold or even 100-fold. Chu Fengmian said with lingering fear. His face looked calm, but in his heart, he heaved a huge sigh of relief. That finger attack had almost broken through the threshold. Chu Fengmian didn't seem to be injured at all. That finger attack had almost completely destroyed Chu Fengmian's body. At that time, even if Chu Fengmian's recovery power was 10,000 times stronger, he still wouldn't be able to recover. Fortunately, Lu Qianren had only stepped into the first step of the life and death steps, the life and death steps. If he had reached the second step, the giant spirit realm, Chu Fengmian would have been obliterated by that finger attack. Chu Fengmian wouldn't even have been able to resist. Even so, Chu Fengmian had barely withstood it. If not for the creation tree branch's power fusing into his bloodline and increasing his recovery power by a lot, he probably wouldn't have been able to recover. It could be said that all of this was indispensable. It was an opportunity that only came once in 10,000 times. Chu Fengmian had almost died at Lu Qianren's hands. Lu Qianren said that he wanted to suppress Chu Fengmian, but his attack was a real killing blow. The Academy's people are protecting me. It's very likely that they know I obtained the inheritance of Sage Lord Beimeng of the Sage Hall. Lu Qianren knows this as well. That's why he wants to kill me. Kill me. Chu Fengmian naturally guessed the reason why Beimeng's Sacred Region's elders suddenly protected Chu Fengmian. There was no lack of Beimeng's Sacred Region's spies in the Sage Hall. The news of Chu Fengmian obtaining the inheritance was naturally known to them. It seemed that Lu Qianren was planning to use this opportunity to kill Chu Fengmian and eliminate the threat that was Chu Fengmian. This plot is a little complicated and difficult to write. I'm afraid it won't be clear, so I can only write it slowly. Chapter 630. Given Chu Fengmian's aptitude, he would definitely become a great threat to the Lu family once he matured. The people of the Lu clan are really powerful in the Beimang sacred region. They are trying to use this opportunity to kill me. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered as he sized up Lu Qianren. He was also thinking of a countermeasure. Lu Qianren's strength was indeed far beyond Chu Fengmian's current strength. However, it wouldn't be easy for Lu Qianren to kill Chu Fengmian. After all, Chu Fengmian had an extreme immortal weapon, the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian had already obtained 4 fragments of the Emperor Jar. With the jar's power, it would be impossible for Lu Qianren to kill Chu Fengmian. If Chu Fengmian used the jar's power, he would be able to contend against Lu Qianren. However, once he used the jar, the news that Chu Fengmian had an extreme immortal weapon would spread. The Emperor Jar was an extreme immortal weapon. Chu Fengmian dared to take out the ancestral dragon's supreme sword, but he didn't dare to casually take out the Emperor Jar. An extreme immortal weapon was something that didn't exist in the 9 realms. If others knew that the Emperor Jar was in Chu Fengmian's hands, once the news spread, even the 7 great sects would come to snatch it, not to mention that the 7 great sects didn't even need to do so. The old fogies of Northern Mang Academy would disregard their status and come to deal with Chu Fengmian. At that time, Chu Fengmian could only flee in panic. He couldn't use this move unless it was absolutely necessary. Junior, is the sword in your hand a heaven-grade spirit weapon? Lu Qianren's expression changed slightly when his attack was blocked by Chu Fengmian. Although his strength wasn't at the peak of perfection, he was still an expert who'd stepped onto the first step of the life and death steps, the life-saving realm. He could be considered an old fogey in Northern Mang Academy. Although he hadn't used his full strength, he hadn't held back in the slightest. Now that it was blocked by a divine force realm cultivator, he was extremely surprised. With his strength, he could naturally tell with a glance that Chu Fengmian was able to block his finger attack. However, Chu Fengmian's body was only able to contribute 10% of the power. The other 90% of the power was completely neutralized by the spiritual sword in Chu Fengmian's hand. A spiritual sword that could do all this was definitely a heaven-grade spiritual weapon. Only the best of the best heaven-grade spiritual weapons could do all this. Junior, you said that you had a fortuitous encounter in the Void Ocean. You must have entered Dragon Emperor's cave residence. Suddenly, Lu Qianren's tone changed, and he spoke coldly. The ancestral dragon's supreme sword. Brat, you killed your fellow disciples, injured our Lu clan's disciples, and even broke our spiritual weapon, the Golden Almighty Hall. Your crimes are unforgivable. But today, you be our slave, and you, RS, as slave. Lu Qianren's words were a blatant threat. He didn't even try to hide the threat in his words. You want me to be your slave? Do you think your Lu family is worthy? Old man, you'd better dream less. Chu Fengmian said bluntly after hearing Lu Qianren's words. That threat sounded like a joke to Chu Fengmian. Did Lu Qianren really think that Chu Fengmian was a brat who was still wet behind the ears? He wanted Chu Fengmian to submit by showing his strength. Old man, this is the life and death arena. It's a place where the disciples of the Northern Mang sacred region spar. Even if I killed those 2 trash from the Lu family, it wouldn't be considered a violation of the rules. But you, as the patriarch of the Northern Mang Sacred Academy, you disregarded your status and attacked me. That's a violation of the Academy's rules. You're the unforgivable one. Chu Fengmian looked coldly at Lu Qianren and said. Facing Lu Qianren, Chu Fengmian didn't back down. Many people were scared to death after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. Especially the seed disciples. Each of them trembled in fear and no one dared to speak. Although these seed disciples had a high status in the Northern Mang Sacred Academy, they could only be respectful and listen to the orders of the Supreme Elders. Furthermore, Lu Qianren's status was even higher than that of a Prime Elder. He was one of the patriarchs of the North Sea Institute. In the future, his statue would be erected in the Sage Hall, where countless disciples would pay tribute to him. Daring to talk to such an old ancestor was a kind of courage, not to mention the fact that they were confronting each other head-on. Rules? Our Northern Mang Sacred Academy's rules aren't something a brat like you can understand. Lu Qianren shouted angrily. The anger on his face was terrifying to the extreme. How could he accept being reprimanded by someone with his status? Once his anger was ignited, it was enough to shake the entire Northern Mang Sacred Academy. Lu Qianren's eyes were fixed on Chu Fengmian. The murderous intent in his eyes was undisguised as he stared at Chu Fengmian. Junior, I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the ancestral dragon's supreme sword and become a slave of the Lu family. This is the only way for you to survive. Dream on. Chu Fengmian said casually. If you want the sword in my hand, then come and take it. Fine, since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then this old man will kill you first and take your sword. Lu Qianren took a step forward in the air. Spiritual energy erupted from his body. This murderous intent had already locked onto Chu Fengmian's body. Lu Qianren's power was countless times stronger than before. Boom! Lu Qianren abruptly struck out with his palm, striking the air and descending from the sky. The martial Tao contained in this strike was mysterious to the extreme. When it landed, everyone could feel the profundity of the martial Tao. Lu Qianren's strike was aimed directly at Chu Fengmian. He didn't hold back in the slightest, intending to kill Chu Fengmian with this strike. Brat, isn't your body's recovery ability very strong? Today, I'll smash your body to pieces. Let's see if you can recover. Lu Qianren said with a ferocious expression. His strike contained an extreme amount of power. It seemed as if he wanted to completely pulverize Chu Fengmian's body. This strike was like an incomparably huge millstone descending from the sky. Anyone who dared to approach would be crushed. Chapter 631. This time, Lu Qianren had used his full strength. It wasn't the same as before, where he only used a casual finger. The power of his palm was stronger than any martial artist Chu Fengmian had ever seen. After all, this was a life-shatterer old antique. Rumble! Heaven and earth trembled, and countless spaces shattered under the pressure of the millstone. This incomparably huge millstone descended from the sky, bringing with it endless pressure. Is this the power of a life-shatterer expert? Chu Fengmian felt the pressure from the sky, and his face turned extremely gloomy. Lu Qianren had used his full strength, and the pressure Chu Fengmian felt was incomparable. This was Chu Fengmian's first time fighting against an expert of this level. However, before Chu Fengmian could comprehend the power of this palm, it had already descended with a loud rumble. It approached Chu Fengmian's body, giving him no time to ponder. Sword break! In his hand, the power of the ancestral dragon supreme sword and Chu Fengmian's bloodline merged as one. Suddenly, he blasted out. The power of the ancestral dragon supreme sword was pushed to the limit. Facing Lu Qianren, Chu Fengmian couldn't hold back. Chu Fengmian's battle dragon art was completely activated, and he met the attack with his sword. I'll help you. Hanueli, who was standing beside Chu Fengmian, also moved and attacked. Hanueli's body emitted a chilling aura, and an ice sword condensed in her palm. Hanueli could now condense ice into a sword with a wave of her hand. This ice sword was even harder than an earth-grade spirit tool. This kind of innate divine body made use of the body's power to its greatest extent. As soon as the ice sword appeared, the chilling aura within made countless people tremble. Countless spectators retreated one after another. Hanueli's aura rose steadily, even surpassing many elders. She wasn't the slightest bit inferior to the Grand Elder Chu Fengmian had met before. What kind of strength is this? This is Hanueli's strength? How can she be so powerful? This is already close to the peak of life and death realm. Countless people were stunned when they saw the strength displayed by Han Yueli. Han Yueli was the same as Chu Fengmian, but he was a newcomer this year. Many people didn't expect that Han Yueli's strength had reached such a level. Peak of life and death realm. A person who had just broken through life and death realm actually possessed such frightening strength. Your strength has actually reached such a level. Chu Fengmian was slightly surprised to see Han Yueli display his strength. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, it was unknown how many fortuitous encounters he had experienced in order to reach his current level. But now, Han Yueli was actually standing in front of him. Peak of life and death realm. With Han Yueli's strength, as long as she took one more step, she would be able to step onto the life and death steps. Just one more step and she would be able to stand on the same level as Lu Qianren. Even if Han Yueli's strength was stagnant at this level, her current strength was enough to be regarded as one of the upper echelons of North Sea Academy, an existence whose name could shake the entire northern region. Moreover, Han Yueli had the innate godly body, the profound cold body. With her aptitude, she was far from reaching the upper limit. In the future, Han Yueli might even reach the peak of northern region, or even the peak of the 9 regions. In order to catch up to you and not fall behind you, the current me is finally strong enough to join hands with you. Han Yueli looked at Chu Fengmian and softly said. From the beginning, the two of them had known each other. It was Chu Fengmian who had been protecting her. Now, Han Yueli finally had the chance to protect Chu Fengmian. The upper echelons of the academy should already know that you've obtained the St. Hall's inheritance. Now, we only need to stall for time until the upper echelons arrive. Then, Lu Qianren won't be able to kill you. Han Yueli's mind flickered as she quietly said to Chu Fengmian. With our strength, even if we join hands, we won't be this old man's opponent. We have to be careful. Don't worry, it's impossible for this old man to kill me. Chu Fengmian replied confidently. He had an absolute trump card, the Mortal Emperor Jar. As long as Chu Fengmian used the power of the Mortal Emperor Jar, he could easily injure Lu Qianren. Although he couldn't kill Lu Qianren, it was more than enough for him to escape unscathed. However, once Chu Fengmian used the Emperor Jar, he would have to leave North Sea Academy. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Chu Fengmian didn't want to use this move. Han Yueli, with just you dare to save this brat? Lu Qianren looked at Han Yueli's attack with an extremely cold expression. I know that your master, Elder Bingley, has already seen through life and death and stepped onto the life and death steps. But do you think that with her protecting you, you have the qualifications to join our Lu family? Lu Qianren's words contained endless killing intent as he coldly snorted. Get lost. This kid is our Lu family's enemy. He must die today. If you want to protect him, you'll die together with him. Anyway, with our North Sea Academy's huge size, losing 2 disciples is nothing. Old man, you're really arrogant. Do you really think you can kill me? Bingley, draw your sword. Chu Fengmian sneered. Without wasting any time, he suddenly unsheathed his sword. Sword light wantonly shot out. Every sword light was comparable to a high-level life and death expert's attack. The scattered sword light was just a prelude. The next crazy sword light was the real attack. Sword chi that blotted out the sky condensed on Chu Fengmian's sword and slashed towards Lu Qianren. There were tens of thousands of sword chi, and the surroundings turned into a world of swords. Chu Fengmian was located in this world. He was the god of sword Dao, the core of all sword Dao. The innumerable streams of sword energy were the first to strike, and were already shooting toward Lu Qianren from all directions. Ice extinction. Han Yueli, who was standing at the side, also suddenly took action. Her hands moved slightly and an incomparably huge ice sword was formed in the sky. This ice sword was 1,000 meters long and similarly slashed towards Lu Qianren. The trajectory of the ice sword slash froze space itself. As the ice sword streaked across the sky, it turned into a huge ice bridge that didn't break for a long time. The 2 swords slashed toward Lu Qianren at the same time. Chu Fengmian and Han Yueli joined hands, representing the current peak strength of the North Sea Academy's disciples. Dragon. The moment Chu Fengmian's countless sword chi closed in on Lu Qianren, all of them suddenly turned into ancient battle dragons. Chapter 632. All things transform into dragons. Roar! Roar! A dragon's roar resounded as the 10,000 sword chi transformed into 10,000 ancient battle dragons. At the same time, they roared and bombarded Lu Qianren. The ancestral dragon supreme sword was the most precious treasure of the dragon clan. Now that it was in Chu Fengmian's hands, he could utilize the power of the battle dragon art to the extreme. Every sword strike was a combination of dragon power and sword intent. The sword strike was even more powerful than before, aiming to kill Lu Qianren directly. Humph! At this moment, a cold snort resounded. Up in the sky, Lu Qianren suddenly waved his hand. In the palm of his hand, a surge of spiritual energy was formed. In front of him, a transparent barrier was formed. The countless sword chi released by Chu Fengmian and Hanyu Li were blocked by Lu Qianren's spiritual energy barrier. If Chu Fengmian and Hanyu Li joined forces, even a peak life and death realm expert wouldn't be able to resist and would be killed instantly. But now, Lu Qianren easily dispelled their attacks. Lu Qianren had only stepped onto the first step of the life and death steps, the life and death realm. However, his strength had already surpassed the life and death realm. You two little fellows dare to challenge me with just your sword chi? Ridiculous. In the face of absolute power, no matter how powerful your swordsmanship is, it is meaningless. Lu Qianren shouted loudly, his words full of ridicule. His eyes looked at Chu Fengmian and Hanyu Li as if he was mocking two ants who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Both of you, suppress both of you. Rumble. Lu Qianren's two hands suddenly slammed down. Almost at the same time, an endless amount of spiritual energy fell from the sky. The spiritual energy's pressure was like a calamity. It was as if the sky was collapsing, causing fear in people's hearts. No one dared to resist. Lu Qianren wanted to suppress both Chu Fengmian and Hanyu Li in one move, leaving no one alive. Not good. Chu Fengmian's expression changed abruptly. This power was far beyond his imagination. Up until now, Chu Fengmian had always defeated his opponents with his strength. Chu Fengmian possessed the War Dragon skill and possessed the bloodline of the ancient War Dragon. In addition, Chu Fengmian had obtained countless fortuitous encounters and even condensed the ancient Dragon King body. His strength was no different from a real ancient war dragon. But now, in the face of Lu Qianren's power, Chu Fengmian's was nothing more than an ant. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't resist Lu Qianren's power. Two juniors, trying to oppose me after stumbling into some fortunate encounters? I'll first suppress you and force you to tell me everything you've encountered before killing you. With a wave of his hand, Lu Qianren's spiritual power transformed into two pagodas. At the same time, they crashed down towards Chu Fengmian and Hanyu Li. Chu Fengmian could feel the power of the pagoda. Even if Chu Fengmian used all his strength, he wouldn't be able to resist it. Once the pagoda fell, Chu Fengmian and Hanyu Li could only be suppressed. Do I really have to use the power of the Emperor Jar? Chu Fengmian's brow was dripping with cold sweat. This was his last resort. But now, the situation had forced him to his limit. Chu Fengmian's spiritual sense was now deep within the spatial ring, communicating with the Emperor Jar. He could take it out at any time and unleash its power. However, almost at the same time, a surge of spiritual energy suddenly vibrated out from the void. This energy was simply extremely strong and powerful. It suddenly shot out from the void and struck the two pagodas, shattering them instantly. Who is it? Lu Qianren's brows furrowed as he coldly swept his gaze around. How dare you meddle in the affairs of the Lu family? Do you want to die? If you know what's good for you, scram. The affairs of the Lu family? Why can't I meddle in the affairs of the Lu family? A pleasant voice could be heard all of a sudden as a figure walked out from the rift. The moment he saw this figure, Chu Fengmian's expression froze. His heart was filled with excitement. Master? This figure was Chu Fengmian's master in the Martial Victory Academy, the Xianbei Saint. But now, the Xianbei Saint's aura and strength had far surpassed back then. On the Xianbei Saint's body, Chu Fengmian could feel an aura that transcended life and death, similar to that of Lu Qianren. The Xianbei Saint's current strength had already surpassed the life and death realm and stepped onto the life and death steps. Chu Fengmian didn't know which stage he had reached, but based on his aura alone, the Xianbei Saint's strength had even surpassed Lu Qianren's. Back in the Martial Victory Academy, the Xianbei Saint had suddenly left, saying that he was going to pass a life and death calamity. Chu Fengmian had investigated, but he couldn't find any news. Originally, he thought that the Xianbei Saint had already fallen, but he didn't expect him to suddenly appear in Beimang's sacred region. Moreover, this strength was far beyond the life and death realm, and had already surpassed the peak of the life and death steps. Xianbei? Lu Qianren saw the sudden appearance of the figure and was somewhat surprised. Xianbei, you've only recently returned to the academy. Our Lu family doesn't have any grudges with you, right? Why are you standing up for this brat? Lu Qianren's words echoed the doubts in the hearts of countless disciples. At this moment, another old ancestor appeared. This Xianbei Saint was an extremely unfamiliar existence to the disciples. They had never seen him before. But now, he suddenly stood up for Chu Fengmian against Lu Qianren. The Lu family was a true power in the Beimang Academy, and Lu Qianren wasn't the only old ancestor in the Lu family. In the Lu family, there were experts that surpassed Lu Qianren. Risking offending the Lu family to suddenly stand up for Chu Fengmian, this caused countless people to be stunned. Xianbei, I advise you to mind your own business. This person offended our Lu family and is already a dead man. He has no relationship with you. Do you really want to risk offending our Lu family to save him? Seeing that the Xianbei Saint didn't speak, Lu Qianren hesitated for a moment before speaking. If you're here for Ising face, then I'll give you face and let this Han go. You can take her away, and I'll let her go this time. However, this brat has a deep grudge with our Lu family. Since he dares to chase after our disciples, he must die today. Lu Qianren spoke and suddenly took a step back. Chapter 633. Lu Qianren had assumed that the Xianbei Saint had come because of Han Yueli. After all, Han Yueli's master was Elder Isli. Perhaps the Xianbei Saint had only intervened because of Elder Isli. All he had to do was release Han Yueli. After all, Han Yueli was highly regarded by many elders in the North Sea Academy. Killing her would be a huge risk. However, Chu Fengmian was a loner who had encountered countless fortuitous encounters. Even if he killed her, the academy wouldn't blame him. Furthermore, Chu Fengmian had the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword, the ultimate treasure of the Dragon Clan. Although the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword could only unleash its full power in the hands of someone with the Dragon Clan's bloodline, it was still a peak heaven-grade spiritual artifact even without the support of the Dragon Clan's bloodline. Chu Fengmian was strong enough to destroy the Goldemalite Hall. The ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword was so sharp that it could unleash 90% of its power. With the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword, Lu Qianren's strength would increase by several folds. I want to take both of them away. The Xianbei Saint said slowly after hearing Lu Qianren's words. Although his tone was calm, the meaning behind his words was clear to everyone. There was no room for negotiation at all. What? Lu Qianren was enraged when he heard these words. He had already taken a step back, but the Xianbei Saint still didn't give him any face. Their Lu clan could cover the sky with one hand at the Northern Mang Academy. They were a lawless existence and no one dared to not give face to the Lu clan. Xianbei, are you really going to meddle in the Lu family's affairs? Are you going to make an enemy out of the Lu family? Lu Qianren snorted coldly as he looked at the Xianbei Saint. I know that you left the academy and had a fortuitous encounter outside. However, if you want to make an enemy out of the Lu family, you have to consider this carefully. Lu Qianren's words were an absolute threat. He had used the Lu family to threaten the Xianbei Saint. However, the Xianbei Saint's expression didn't change at all when he heard Lu Qianren's words. Instead, there was a mocking look in his eyes. The Lu family's affairs? Xianbei Saint said calmly. This is a matter between the Lu clan and I, Xianbei. How dare the people of the Lu clan come here to suppress my disciple? Are you looking down on me, your master? These words caused everyone to suddenly quiet down. The eyes of countless people swiveled rapidly, as if they were repeatedly confirming this statement. Disciple? Master? Chu Fengmian was the disciple of Saint Xianbei? The hearts of the countless onlookers were filled with astonishment. Xianbei Saint was an extremely mysterious existence among the patriarchs of Biming College. Those who knew him knew that he had always been a lone wolf. He had never heard that the Xianbei Saint had such a disciple. Chu Fengmian was just a newcomer to the North Sea Academy. When did he become the disciple of Saint Xianbei? Disciple? Who is your disciple? Lu Qianren was stunned when he heard the Xianbei Saint's words. He didn't expect the Xianbei Saint to say such a thing. Lu Qianren had thought of 1,000, or even 10,000 reasons why the Xianbei Saint would act. It must be because he valued Chu Fengmian's talent and wanted to do him a favor. He might even want to obtain the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. He didn't expect that the Xianbei Saint would come to save his disciple. Chu Fengmian is my disciple. The Xianbei Saint said coldly. What? This is not only a matter of the Lu family, but also a matter of mine. The Lu clan besieged my disciple and was defeated by him. Lu Qianren, you're a person who has stepped onto the life and death steps. You're an ancestor of Biming College. You're going too far by attacking a junior. The Xianbei Saint's words shook Lu Qianren's heart, leaving him speechless. This was the stage of life and death. On the stage of life and death, no other elders were allowed to participate in the fights between disciples. Lu Ke had already violated the rules and was defeated by Chu Fengmian. Even if Chu Fengmian killed both of them, it was still within the rules. As the ancestor of Biming College, Lu Qianren had already violated the rules by attacking Chu Fengmian. Previously, no one had stood up for Chu Fengmian, so he could be unscrupulous. No one would risk offending the Lu clan to help Chu Fengmian. But now that the Xianbei Saint had appeared, everything was different. With the Xianbei Saint's help, Lu Qianren's actions had indeed violated the college's rules. Lu Qianren's eyes flickered as if he was considering something. This was the best opportunity to kill Chu Fengmian, but the Xianbei Saint had suddenly appeared. The Xianbei Saint's strength was far above Lu Qianren's. Even if Lu Qianren wanted to kill Chu Fengmian, it was impossible. Xianbei, do you really want to be enemies with the Lu clan? Lu Qianren didn't give up and looked at the Xianbei Saint. You say he's your disciple. What proof do you have? Proof? I, Xianbei, never lie. The Xianbei Saint snorted coldly. His words were laced with a sneer. Lu Qianren, if you don't leave now, you won't be able to escape unscathed. A burst of spiritual energy erupted from the Xianbei Saint's body. His aura was rising steadily. This burst of energy turned into an oppressive pressure that pressed down on Lu Qianren. Lu Qianren didn't show any weakness. He urged his own oppressive pressure to resist. The two oppressive forces clashed in the air. In the next moment, Lu Qianren's oppressive pressure was shattered. Although the two of them were experts who had stepped onto the steps of life and death, the moment they clashed, the difference between them was too great. You! Lu Qianren retreated again and again, his face full of horror. This power was far beyond his imagination. Lu Qianren's expression changed drastically. After a long time, he slowly opened his mouth to speak. Fine, Xianbei. I'll give you face this time. Let this kid go. Lu Qianren looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. Kid, consider yourself lucky that someone stood up for you. I'll spare you this time. Hand over the members of the Lu clan. Lu Ke and Lu Hua had been suppressed by Chu Fengmian earlier, and had fallen into his hands. Hearing Lu Qianren's words, Chu Fengmian's expression changed. Let them go? These two pieces of trash were suppressed by me on the life and death platform. Their fate is up to me. Chapter 634. Chu Fengmian, what's the meaning of this? Lu Qianren shouted angrily at Chu Fengmian. I'll spare your life today out of respect for Xianbei. The next time I see you, I'll kill you. Release them now. Lu Qianren's tone was unyielding. He wanted to get back at Chu Fengmian for what happened today. Lu Qianren was the old ancestor of the Northern Sea Academy, a life-saving expert. Now that Chu Fengmian had forced him to this point, he wouldn't let it go so easily. Although he could only retreat in front of Xianbei Saint, Lu Qianren was already plotting countless vicious schemes to deal with Chu Fengmian. Is that so? In that case, there's no need for Lu Kai and Lu Hua to live. After all, the Lu clan has no intention of reconciling. I captured these two on the life and death platform. If I want to kill them, I'll kill them. Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and Lu Kai and Lu Hua immediately appeared in his palm. As Chu Fengmian clenched his hand, the bodies of the two swelled up, as if they were about to be crushed to death. How dare you! Lu Qianren shouted coldly at Chu Fengmian's actions. If you dare touch a hair on their heads, the Lu clan will not rest until you're dead. Oh? Chu Fengmian sneered at Lu Qianren's words. His palm suddenly moved, and with a little force, Lu Kai and Lu Hua's bodies swelled to the extreme, as if they would explode at any time. Save me! Old ancestor, save me! Lu Hua shouted. He was about to be crushed to death, and he struggled with all his might. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were being squeezed. Although it wasn't enough to kill a cultivator of his level, the pain was still incomparably great. Lu Kai and Lu Hua let out cries of agony. Their screams were heard by countless people, and they felt a chill in their hearts. Ruthless, too ruthless. Chu Fengmian didn't care about the threat of an old antique like Lu Qianren. It was as if he wanted to crush Lu Kai and Lu Hua to death. Lu Kai and Lu Hua both held high positions in the Lu family. The Lu family had spent countless resources to nurture them. There had never been anyone who dared to treat the Lu family like this in the North Sea Academy. Even the number 1 disciple, Yi Tianjun, did not have the courage to go against the Lu clan, even though he was extremely arrogant. Chu Fengmian's arrogance and overbearingness was simply frightening. It also made countless warriors admire him. Only with this kind of fearless temperament could one become a true expert. If one retreated when faced with the threat of an expert, then what was the point of cultivating martial arts? Even Lu Qianren fell silent when he saw Chu Fengmian's crazy actions. It seemed that he didn't expect Chu Fengmian to be so unyielding. Chu Fengmian actually dared to oppose him at this time. What are you trying to do? Lu Qianren looked at Chu Fengmian and spoke calmly. Today, I must take these 2 people away. Let them go quickly. As long as you let them go, today's grudge can be written off. Lu Qianren no longer dared to be unyielding. That was because he was able to tell that with Chu Fengmian's domineering personality, he would absolutely not place his threats in his eyes. All of his threats were counterproductive. He was threatening Chu Fengmian, forcing Chu Fengmian to kill these 2. Lu Kai was one thing. But Lu Hua was the number 1 genius of the Lu family. With an innate divine body of lightning, his future was limitless. Lu Hua could not die. Chu Fengmian had only dared to force Lu Qianren's hand because of this. The Lu family could not bear to part with a genius with an innate divine body. Chu Fengmian's gamble paid off. The Lu family was indeed reluctant. At the very least, Lu Qianren could only back down. The corner of Chu Fengmian's mouth twitched as he spoke calmly. Nothing. I just want the Lu family to give me an explanation. Lu Qianren looked at Chu Fengmian and sneered. Explanation? What explanation? It's very simple. Let the 2 of them go. That's fine. However, the 2 of them dared to come and kill me. If I let them go just like that, it would damage my dignity. Chu Fengmian looked at Lu Qianren and spoke word by word. I want 50% of their Saint Essence blood, as well as all the wealth in their spatial rings as compensation. Lu Qianren's heart was already burning with rage when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Towards the end, Lu Qianren roared. Don't even think about it. Chu Fengmian, I advise you to obediently let them go. Otherwise, you'll be hunted down endlessly by the Lu family. Your master, Xian Bei, can't protect you forever. One day, you'll die at the hands of the Lu family. Lu Qianren's anger had reached its peak. What was his status? He was the old ancestor of the North Sea Academy, an old antique. He was worthy of being revered by everyone. Even peak life and death great elders had to be respectful in front of him and listen to his orders. As for Chu Fengmian, he was just an ant in the divine force realm. Yet, he dared to raise conditions with him. However, no matter how angry Lu Qianren was, Chu Fengmian's expression remained as calm as ever. This is my only request. It's up to you whether or not the Lu family agrees. As Chu Fengmian spoke, he increased the power in his palm. Lu Hua's face was flushed red due to the surge of blood qi. He could die at any moment. Old ancestor, save me. Save me. Lu Hua had used up all of her strength to say those words. This calmed Lu Qianren's anger once again. Although losing half of his blood essence was a great injury, he could still recover with the Lu family's resources. However, if Lu Hua died at Chu Fengmian's hands, no matter how powerful the Lu family was, they wouldn't be able to revive a dead person. All right, I agree. Lu Qianren could see that if he didn't agree, Lu Hua would really be crushed to death by Chu Fengmian. All right. Chu Fengmian nodded and didn't say anything else. With a wave of his hand, 2 empty rings landed in his hand. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's palm bombarded Lu Hua and Lu Quebec. On their chests, a bloody wound suddenly opened up, and Chu Fengmian extracted their essence blood. The essence blood then condensed into a blood pill. Both Lu Ke and Lu Hua had half of their blood essence extracted. Both of their faces were incomparably pale and extremely weak. Chu Fengmian waved his hand and threw the 2 away. Lu Qianren caught them. Good, Chu Fengmian. Our Lu family will remember today's matter. One day, you will fall into our hands. When that time comes, you will die. Chapter 635. With that, Lu Qianren grabbed Lu Ke and Lu Hua and turned into a streak of light as he flew away. After a long while, the voice gradually faded away. Everyone present could hear the anger in Lu Qianren's voice. Chu Fengmian and the Lu clan had become mortal enemies. Let's go. Follow me. After the dust settled, the Xianbei saint glanced at Chu Fengmian and said. Then, he led Chu Fengmian, Hanueli, and Bai Xian away. Chu Fengmian and the others followed the Xianbei saint all the way until they arrived at a deep mountain in Beimang's sacred region. There was a hidden restriction set up on the mountain that couldn't be discovered from the outside. It could only be opened by using a special restriction. The spiritual energy on the mountain was much denser than in Beimang's sacred region. Much of the spiritual energy contained an extremely ancient power. It was the spiritual energy from the primordial era that contained some of the laws of the primordial era. In the primordial era, there were many experts. The laws of the primordial era were much stronger than the laws of the primordial era. That was why so many experts were created. Some of the current experts had to find some of the laws of the primordial era to comprehend if they wanted to improve. The spiritual energy here contains a trace of the primordial era. It will be very useful for comprehending the laws of the primordial era. You can comprehend it here. The Xianbei saint said to Hanueli and Bai Xian before turning to Chu Fengmian. Come with me. Yes. Chu Fengmian followed the Xianbei saint all the way to a palace before sitting down. I didn't expect to meet you in such a remote place in Wuxing Academy. You've grown to such a level. The Xianbei saint, who was sitting on a throne, looked at Chu Fengmian and sighed. The talented young man who had just entered Wuxing Academy back then had already grown to such a level. Even if Chu Fengmian left Beimang Academy, he could still be considered an overlord in the northern region. Chu Fengmian said respectfully when he heard the Xianbei saint's words. I have to thank you for your nurturing, master. Nurturing? I didn't nurture you much. The Xianbei saint smiled. I went to the remote Wuxian country to train my heart to survive the calamity. I didn't expect to meet you there. I accepted you as my disciple and left in a hurry. I didn't expect you to really come to Beimang Academy and reach such a level. No, if it wasn't for Master, I would have died at the hands of Zhiling Tian back at Wuxing Academy. Chu Fengmian said. He respected Saint Xianbei very much. Although the Xianbei saint didn't nurture, the saint had saved Chu Fengmian's life, of course. The saints of the primordial spirit. Woods, Chu Fengmian of the pre-primordial Saint S's of the pre-primordial academy. Chu Fengmian would forever remember this kindness. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Xianbei saint smiled. When he saved Chu Fengmian, he didn't expect Chu Fengmian to repay him in the future. After all, Chu Fengmian was just a talented martial artist. He didn't want Chu Fengmian to die in vain, so he saved him. However, the Xianbei saint was delighted to hear that Chu Fengmian still remembered his kindness. At least Chu Fengmian wasn't the kind of person who would repay kindness with ingratitude. He wasn't wrong to save Chu Fengmian back then. I heard that you obtained the treasures of the ancient Dragon Emperor cave abode. The Xianbei saint suddenly looked at Chu Fengmian and sized him up. However, he didn't use his spiritual consciousness to check on Chu Fengmian. The Xianbei saint didn't want to pry into his disciples' secrets. That's right. I obtained the treasures of the ancient Dragon Emperor cave abode and the Dragon Tribe's supreme treasure, the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword. Chu Fengmian replied. Now that he was in the northern Mang sacred region, most of the martial techniques he used were from the Dragon Tribe. It was to match his identity. Chu Fengmian's strength and the treasures were obtained so quickly that he would definitely be suspected. Moreover, many people had seen Chu Fengmian in the ancient Dragon Emperor cave abode. This news would definitely spread out. There was no point in hiding it now. It was better to say it directly and give Chu Fengmian a proper way to find out his origin. Compared to the treasures of the ancient Dragon Emperor cave abode, Chu Fengmian's battle dragon skill was a secret that couldn't be exposed. The battle dragon skill was a cultivation technique that surpassed the 9 regions. It was almost impossible for it to be from the 9 regions. Moreover, there was the secret of Xian. This secret could never be exposed. With the ancient Dragon Emperor cave abode as a smokescreen, they didn't need to guess where Chu Fengmian's Dragon Tribe martial techniques came from. The Xianbei saint couldn't help but sigh. Very good. Among the 6 ancient cave abodes in the Void Sea, the 2 largest ones are the ancient Dragon Emperor cave abode and the Rui Lord cave abode. These 2 cave abodes are now in the hands of the Northern Mang College. Rui Lord? Chu Fengmian was shocked when he heard the name. He didn't expect the Rui Lord cave abode to be one of the 6 ancient cave abodes in the Void Sea. The Rui Lord was a figure from tens of thousands of years ago. He was an itinerant cultivator who didn't belong to any sect. However, he had an innate Jade Rui. This innate Jade Rui Lord was an expert among the heaven-grade spiritual weapons. With the innate Jade Rui Lord cave abode, he had dominated the 9 regions for a while. Although he wasn't as strong as the ancient Dragon Emperor cave abode, he was still a powerful figure. He didn't expect his cave abode to be obtained by someone from the Northern Mang College. Who is it? Chu Fengmian couldn't help but ask curiously. After obtaining the Rui Lord cave abode, even an ordinary martial artist would be able to soar to the sky. The innate Jade Rui Lord cave abode was also an extremely troublesome spiritual weapon. Chu Fengmian had to be vigilant when such a person suddenly appeared in the Northern Mang College. Moreover, the person who could obtain the Rui Lord cave abode couldn't be an ordinary person. It's Yi Tianjun. The Xianbei saint said calmly. After obtaining the Rui Lord cave abode, Yi Tianjun's strength increased greatly. Now, he's going to go through the life and death tribulation. Yi Tianjun, it was indeed him. Chu Fengmian wasn't surprised when he heard the name. He even seemed to have guessed it. When the cave abodes in the Void Sea opened, Chu Fengmian knew that the Northern Mang College wouldn't let go of this genius. However, Chu Fengmian didn't meet him in the ancient Dragon Emperor cave abode. Now, it seemed that these people had gone. Yi Tianjun had obtained the Rui Lord Cave Abode. Chapter 636. Although Lord Rui was not as strong as Dragon Emperor Yen Gu, he was also a powerhouse who had once commanded the 9 regions. Yi Tianjun himself was extremely talented and had an innate divine body. Now, he had also obtained Lord Rui's cave abode treasure. It was even possible that the innate Jade Rui had fallen into Yi Tianjun's hands. This wasn't good news for Chu Fengmian. No wonder Yi Tianjun did not come to find trouble with me. Once he passes the life and death tribulation, I'm afraid it will be a disaster for me. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. Yi Tianjun had disappeared from Beimang's sacred region for a long time. Now that he heard Xian Bei Saint's words, Yi Tianjun should have gone to find an opportunity to pass the life and death tribulation. Yi Tianjun had been spying on Hanueli for a long time, especially since Chu Fengmian had killed many people from the sacred faction. He had already formed a deadly feud with Yi Tianjun. Once Yi Tianjun broke through, it would not be good news for Chu Fengmian. However, Chu Fengmian did not panic too much. Yi Tianjun was now looking for an opportunity to pass the life and death tribulation. However, the more talented a martial artist was, the harder it was to pass the life and death tribulation. Given Yi Tianjun's talent, he would probably attract the Thousand Thunder Emperor tribulation. It would not be easy to get through it. Chu Fengmian had already reached the limit of the divine power realm and was only a step away from passing the life and death tribulation. Chu Fengmian could feel that if he really wanted to pass the life and death tribulation, he would be able to attract the tribulation lightning in an instant. However, Chu Fengmian already felt that he was still a little bit away from passing the life and death tribulation. He was still a little bit away from being truly perfect and having enough confidence to pass the life and death tribulation. While Chu Fengmian was still thinking, Xian Bei Saint smiled and said, "Many core disciples of Beimang's sacred region have also benefited greatly from the appearance of the 6 cave abodes in the Void Ocean. Some of the geniuses in Beimang's sacred region have also reached the limit of the divine power realm and are not easy to deal with." Xian Bei Saint suddenly changed the topic and asked, 7 days ago, were you the one who drew out the inheritance in the Saint Hall? 7 days ago, the commotion in the All Saints Hall had already attracted the attention of the upper echelons of the North Sea Academy. This time, the appearance of the inheritance had caused many hidden old antiques to show themselves. Normally, when a disciple entered the Sage Hall and drew out an inheritance, it was worth the attention of the upper echelons. However, some of the old-timers didn't pay any attention to it, because to them, there weren't many things in the world that were more important than their cultivation and comprehension. Unless the Northern Sea Academy encountered a calamity, these old antiques would rarely appear. But this time, it was different. This was because the inheritance this time was from the founder of Beimang Academy, Sage Beimang. The stone statue of the Northern Mang Sage was personally left behind by the Northern Mang Sage. The sword art contained within was extremely profound, and no one in the Northern Mang College had ever comprehended it. Yet now, someone had actually managed to obtain his inheritance. Xian Bei Saint had come out of seclusion because he had received the news, but he happened to hear about Chu Fengmian. Not bad. Chu Fengmian nodded. It was meaningless even if Chu Fengmian didn't admit that he had obtained the inheritance, because every move in the All Saints Hall would be watched by the upper echelons. It would be easy to investigate, and there was no need to hide anything. Is this true? Xian Bei Saint's eyes were filled with disbelief. Chu Fengmian had actually obtained the inheritance of the Northern Mang Sage. Hearing Xian Bei Saint's words, Chu Fengmian didn't reply. Instead, he suddenly pointed his finger at Xian Bei Saint. The sword art contained within the finger was the sword art that Chu Fengmian had comprehended from the Northern Mang Sage. The finger suddenly pierced towards Xian Bei Saint. Xian Bei Saint's strength was far beyond Lu Qianren's, but in front of the sword qi, he even felt a little flustered, as if it was a threat. Bam! Xian Bei Saint suddenly grabbed the sword qi with his hand, and the moment it was about to reach him, it was directly crushed. However, the Xian Bei Saint's forehead was drenched in cold sweat, which was dripping down his face. The sword chi actually made him feel nervous. What a mysterious sword art. This sword art is exactly the same as the one on the statue of the Northern Mang sage. Xianbei Saint suddenly stood up and exclaimed in amazement. He had entered the All Saints Hall countless times and had also comprehended the stone statue of the Northern Mang sage, although he couldn't comprehend the sword art. However, Xianbei Saint still knew the power contained within. It was exactly the same as the power in Chu Fengmian's sword chi. This sword art was simply mysterious and shocking. Chu Fengmian was only in the divine power realm, but Xianbei Saint's strength was 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 times stronger than Chu Fengmian. Such a sword art actually made Xianbei Saint feel a little nervous, and he even felt an aura of death. Xianbei Saint was very clear about the power of this sword art. He could deal with it safely because Chu Fengmian's strength wasn't enough, and the sword chi wasn't powerful enough. However, it didn't mean that the sword art wasn't powerful enough. On the contrary, if Chu Fengmian could make him feel threatened with his current strength, this sword art was definitely mysterious to the extreme. As long as Chu Fengmian's strength improved and passed the life and death tribulation, it wouldn't be easy for Xianbei Saint to withstand the sword art. You actually obtained the inheritance of the Northern Mang sage. Xianbei Saint was stunned for a moment before he exclaimed in joy. Good, you're indeed my disciple. Your talent is simply beyond anyone I've seen. I didn't plan to let you go to the opening of the returning ruined sky, but now it seems that with your strength, it's more than enough to enter the returning ruined sky. The returning ruined sky? Chu Fengmian was a little stunned when he heard this unfamiliar name. He didn't remember hearing this name before. You don't know? It seems like no one has told you. Northern Mang sage smiled when he saw Chu Fengmian's surprise. The returning ruined sky is an extraterritorial space discovered by the 9 regions 3,000 years ago. It's where the ruins of some ancient sects are located. There are countless treasures left behind by the ancient sects in the returning ruined sky. It opens every 3 years, and this time, it's going to open soon. When the returning ruined sky opens, all the sects in the 9 regions will have a quota to enter. Our Beimang Academy also has a quota. Chapter 637. 3,000 years ago, Chu Fengmian was not too surprised when he heard this. The ancient ruins that he knew were discovered 10,000 years ago. It was not strange that Chu Fengmian did not know about the returning ruined sky since it had only appeared 3,000 years ago. You haven't used the Northern Mang sacred token, right? Xianbei Saint suddenly looked at Chu Fengmian and asked. Chu Fengmian was stunned. Then, a wooden token appeared in his hand. It was the Northern Mang sacred token. The Northern Mang sacred token could allow anyone to become an inner disciple of the Northern Mang Academy without the need for an assessment. However, the assessment of the Northern Mang Academy was a piece of cake for Chu Fengmian, so he did not need to use it. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had learned from Tuoba Ding that the Northern Mang sacred token had great uses. Therefore, he had kept it in his spatial ring, but he had almost forgotten about it. When Xianbei Saint mentioned it, Chu Fengmian recalled that the Northern Mang sacred token could be used to exchange for a qualification. Indeed, with your aptitude, you should be able to come to the Northern Mang Academy without using the Northern Mang sacred token. Xianbei Saint looked at the wooden token in Chu Fengmian's hand and smiled. I originally left you this sacred token so that you could come to the Northern Mang Academy when you have nowhere else to go. I didn't expect you to not use it. However, with the Northern Mang sacred token, even if you participate in the North Region martial competition, the old antiques will not say anything. Martial competition? Chu Fengmian's eyes were filled with doubt. That's right. Every year, only 100 people are allowed to enter the returning ruined sky. Therefore, in the Northern Region, there will be a martial arts competition. Those who are qualified can participate. The top 10 can enter the returning ruined sky. Xianbei Saint explained calmly. The qualification to enter the returning ruined sky is usually only for disciples who have contributed to the academy. You have just been promoted to a seed disciple, so logically speaking, you can't participate. However, the Northern Mang sacred token can be used to exchange for the qualification to cultivate in the sacred ground. You have contributed greatly to the academy by handing over the sacred token. Xianbei Saint said with a smile. Cultivating in the sacred grounds is no longer of much use to you. Why don't you hand over the Northern Mang sacred tablet and participate in the returning Ruined Skies battle? The Lu clan won't be able to stop you. It's all up to Master. Chu Fengmian handed the Beimang sacred badge to Saint Xianbei. Chu Fengmian was very reassured by Saint Xianbei's words. Since it was arranged this way, it must be the most favorable ending for Chu Fengmian. I'll talk to those old fogies for you. In a few days, we'll be heading to the Martial Emperor's city to participate in the martial competition. You can go with the other disciples. Hanueli will go with you too. Xianbei Saint frowned and said solemnly. However, you have to be careful. The people of the Lu clan might be playing tricks on you. The power of the Lu clan is far more terrifying than you can imagine. Moreover, the news of your rise must have already spread to the Earth Demon sect, and even countless other forces in the northern region. They will all take action against you. You have to be careful. Yes. Chu Fengmian nodded. The news of his Jianwang in Beimang sacred region would definitely spread out quickly. For example, the Earth Demon sect, which had a huge grudge against the Beimang Academy, would definitely kill Chu Fengmian at all costs. However, Chu Fengmian was not worried. With his current strength, there were not many people who could deal with him. Moreover, to become an expert of a generation, one had to go through countless life and death battles. These battles could only be used as training for Chu Fengmian. With your strength, it shouldn't be difficult for you to enter the top 10 in this martial competition. However, you have to be careful. This martial competition is open to all disciples from various sections. There are also some geniuses who have passed the life and death trial. Xianbei Saint looked at Chu Fengmian and said solemnly. Although Long Weiyang, Lu Hua, and the others are strong, they have not passed the life and death trial. They can only be considered average in the list of top 100 talents in the northern region. Some of the outstanding ones have passed the life and death trial, and their strength is comparable to the peak of life and death realm. You have to be careful. This news slightly surprised Chu Fengmian. He thought that this martial competition would only deal with divine power realm warriors. He did not expect that even life and death realm warriors had comprehended it. Once a warrior passed the life and death trial, his strength would increase by several times, or even 10 times. For example, although Chu Fengmian could easily defeat Long Weiyang and Lu Hua now, once they passed the life and death trial, they would pose a threat to Chu Fengmian. I see. Chu Fengmian nodded. Now that Chu Fengmian knew this news, he was not surprised at all. Instead, it aroused his fighting spirit. His battle dragon bloodline had begun to affect Chu Fengmian's character. The more experts he met, the more excited Chu Fengmian would be, and his strength would improve further. Looking at Chu Fengmian's fighting spirit, Xianbei Saint could not help but sigh. Only with this kind of mentality could one be qualified to become an expert. Xianbei Saint said. Let's go and get ready. We'll go to Martial King City in a few days. Yes. Chu Fengmian nodded and left the palace. Outside, Bai Xian had already left, leaving Hanueli alone. She sat on the ground and seemed to be comprehending the ancient law and the spiritual qi. Chu Fengmian, I'll leave first and go to various places in the sacred region to comprehend sword arts. Bai Xian only left this sentence for Chu Fengmian. The previous battle had greatly stimulated Bai Xian. Bai Xian was also a genius, but now, she was surpassed by Chu Fengmian. Even Chu Fengmian's strength was not something she could imagine. After arriving at Northern Mang's sacred region, Bai Xian left and began to comprehend her sword arts. This is good. With Bai Xian's talent, there will be a place for her in Northern Mang's sacred region in the future. Chu Fengmian thought inwardly. His influence in northern Mang's sacred region was still too weak. If Bai Xian could improve her strength, it would be of great help to Chu Fengmian. However, the one who needed to improve his strength the most was Chu Fengmian himself. Chu Fengmian's current strength and body had already reached the limit, but he vaguely felt that he was still a step away. It was still very dangerous to rashly attract a life and death tribulation. Now, it was time for him to go to the returning ruins heaven and seek fortuitous encounters to improve his strength. When the time came, as long as Chu Fengmian truly passed the life and death tribulation and stepped into the life and death realm, he would not be powerless against those old antiques on the life and death steps. Chapter 638. The returning ruins sky was a relic from the ancient times. It was likely that there would be many opportunities in it. This opportunity was even greater than the ancient cave abode in the void ocean. Chu Fengmian had to fight for this opportunity. Yi Tianjun was looking for an opportunity to pass the life and death tribulation. If Yi Tianjun passed the life and death tribulation before him, Chu Fengmian would probably be killed. Therefore, Chu Fengmian had to pass the life and death tribulation before Yi Tianjun. He might not be able to defeat the entire Northern Mang Academy, but he would be invincible among the disciples. Chu Fengmian, you're out? As Chu Fengmian pondered, Han Yueli's eyes slowly opened as she spoke to Chu Fengmian. What did Ancestor Xianbei say to you? Han Yueli wasn't too surprised by Chu Fengmian's master. Han Yueli already knew that Chu Fengmian had a master called Saint Xianbei back in Wushan country. However, she didn't expect Saint Xianbei to be an ancestor of the Northern Mang Academy. It was indeed shocking that there was an ancestor who had reached the life and death steps in a small place like Wushan country. Chu Fengmian happened to run into such a fortuitous encounter. Master told me some things about the returning ruined sky and going to Martial King City to participate in the martial competition. Chu Fengmian said. He didn't have anything to hide from Han Yueli. He told her everything about their conversation. He also told her about the fortuitous encounter in Dragon Emperor Yan's cave abode and Saint Beimang's inheritance in the Sage Hall. However, Chu Fengmian still concealed the fact that Saint Beimang was Chu Fengmian's senior brother, Jianwang. This was a matter of great importance. If word got out that Chu Fengmian was the disciple of the master of Sword Dao, the people of the 7 great sects would do anything to capture Chu Fengmian. Telling Han Yueli would only bring her disaster. Only Chu Fengmian knew the secret. Dragon Emperor Yan, Saint Beimang, I didn't expect your fortuitous encounter to be as good as mine. Han Yueli couldn't help but sigh. Previously, when I came to Northern Mang's sacred region, I accidentally entered a sacred place and accidentally obtained a profound cold dendrobium. It stimulated most of the power in my body and allowed me to overcome a life and death crisis. That's how I possess my current strength. I originally thought that my fortuitous encounter wasn't small, but I never expected that it would still be incomparable to yours. You even managed to obtain the inheritance of the Northern Mang sage. Black Frost Dendrobium. Chu Fengmian was naturally not unfamiliar with this name. This profound frost dendrobium was one of the sacred medicines of heaven and earth. Compared to the 10,000 years fire lotus that Chu Fengmian had once obtained, its grade was much higher. It just so happened that it was of the cold attribute, and was obtained by Han Yueli. It stimulated the power of her profound cold body, causing her strength to skyrocket. It could be said that it was the most suitable fortuitous encounter for Han Yueli. It was no wonder that Han Yueli had overcome a life and death crisis not long after entering the academy. It turned out that there was such a fortuitous encounter. However, compared to Chu Fengmian's fortuitous encounter, this profound frost dendrobium was nothing. Just the ancestral dragon supreme sword alone was enough to drive countless old antiques crazy. However, the fortuitous encounters that Chu Fengmian obtained were all obtained by risking his life. In the Dragon Emperor Yan cave dwelling, Chu Fengmian had almost died in the hands of the undying demon ancestor. Chu Fengmian was considered lucky to have survived and obtained everything that he had today. As the two of them were conversing, Han Yueli's face suddenly changed slightly. She seemed to be a little angry. What's going on? Seeing the sudden change in Han Yueli's face, Chu Fengmian asked. It's an annoying fellow. He's Sikong Hong from the martial arts family Sikong clan. I met him by chance in the North region. This person has always wanted to pursue me and proposed marriage to me. I have already rejected him, but now he's here again. Han Yueli's face was a little ugly as she said. The old ancestor of the Sikong clan has a good relationship with my master, Elder Bingley, so it's not good to fall out with him. I didn't expect him to come again and directly find my master to propose marriage to me. Martial arts family? Sikong Hong? Hearing this name, Chu Fengmian sneered. Following the Sikong clan, Chu Fengmian was really fated. Previously, Chu Fengmian was able to obtain the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword and enter the Dragon Emperor Yen cave dwelling all because of Sikong Xian. In the end, Sikong Xian attacked Chu Fengmian and was directly killed by Chu Fengmian. He didn't expect that there would be someone in the Sikong clan who didn't care about his life and came to court death. Han Yueli looked at Chu Fengmian and said, Master wants me to go back now. What should I do? I'll go back with you. Chu Fengmian said coldly. His face became a lot gloomier. I'd like to see who dares to covet my woman. Although Chu Fengmian's words were gloomy, Han Yueli couldn't help but feel warm in her heart. Let's go. 2 streaks of light instantly disappeared and shuttled through the northern Mang sacred region. The northern Mang sacred region was as big as a continent. After flying for half an hour, a huge mountain finally appeared in front of them. This mountain was set up with countless restrictions. Obviously, it was the place where Han Yueli's master, Elder Bingley, cultivated. Although it wasn't as good as the place where Chu Fengmian's master, the Xianbei saint, lived, it was still well maintained. Chu Fengmian and Han Yueli's streaks of light slowly came to the mountain's surroundings and landed on the mountain. There was only one palace on the mountain. The two waited outside the palace for a while. Then, a figure slowly walked out from the palace. It was a woman who looked to be in her 20s. She looked very young and was slightly older than Han Yueli. However, the woman's aura seemed to have transcended life and death. Compared to Lu Qianren, her aura was on par. They were both in the first stage of the Life Shatterer stage. However, compared to Lu Qianren, she seemed to have broken through to the Life Shatterer stage not long ago. Chu Fengmian analyzed Elder Bingley's strength with a glance. Elder Bingley also cultivated an ice-based cultivation method, which was very similar to Han Yueli's. Disciple, you're back. When Elder Bingley came out and saw Han Yueli, she said happily. You suddenly left in a hurry. Where did you go? Master, Han Yueli was stunned when she heard Elder Bingley's words. She seemed to find it difficult to explain. She left in a hurry because she knew that Chu Fengmian had gone to the life and death arena to save him. She left in a hurry without giving an explanation. Greetings, Elder Bingley. Chu Fengmian's sudden voice broke the silence. Chapter 639. Why is there a man here? Who are you? Only then did Elder Ice Sky notice Chu Fengmian. Seeing him standing beside Han Yueli, she couldn't help but frown. You're a disciple of our northern Mang sacred region? Elder Ice Sky looked at Chu Fengmian and asked with uncertainty. There shouldn't be anyone else in the northern Mang sacred region. However, Chu Fengmian's appearance didn't affect her at all. Master, he's my husband, Chu Fengmian. Han Yueli explained. I left because he was threatened by the dragon faction to go to the life and death arena. Please forgive me, Master. Your husband? Upon hearing this, Elder Bingley's expression changed and she became more serious. His eyes swept over Chu Fengmian, as if he wanted to size Chu Fengmian up and down. Han Yueli had mentioned Chu Fengmian in front of Elder Ice Sky, but at that time, Elder Ice Sky thought it was a joke. They met in the northern region and came to the northern Mang sacred region. Their relationship would be broken sooner or later, so she didn't take it to heart. Now that Chu Fengmian suddenly appeared, Elder Ice Sky was shocked. The fact that Chu Fengmian could come to the northern Mang sacred region meant that his strength had reached the limit of the divine power realm. Your strength has already reached the limit of the divine power realm? After confirming it again, Elder Ice Eski's eyes revealed a bit of surprise. Elder Ice Sky suddenly remembered that she had seen Chu Fengmian during the disciple recruitment ceremony. But at that time, Chu Fengmian hadn't even stepped into the divine power realm. He was just a kid in the wind-controlling realm. In her opinion, he was just a lucky kid who passed the northern Mang sacred region's assessment. She didn't take it to heart. But now, in just a few months, Chu Fengmian actually had his current strength and was promoted to a seed disciple. This surprised her. This speed was simply shocking. Unless he had a great fortuitous encounter, it was impossible to progress so quickly. Disciple, you said that he was taken to the life and death arena by the dragon faction? Elder Ice Sky looked at Chu Fengmian and said. The dragon faction's people are nothing, but Long Weiyang still has some strength. He's not easy to deal with. Yue can save you this time, but you have to be careful. With the dragon faction's character, they will find trouble with you sooner or later. Ice Sky advised. In her opinion, it should have been Han Yue who acted and saved Chu Fengmian. Only then could Chu Fengmian escape unscathed. Otherwise, Chu Fengmian's SS. Han Yue said he Ice Eski's words. From today onwards, Long Ice Eski's the dragon faction. The dragon faction what? Did you kill everyone from the Dragon Society? When Elder Bingley heard Han Yue's words, she was taken aback. But it doesn't matter. Long Weiyang doesn't have anyone behind him, but he has some connections with the Dragon Clan. In the future, the Dragon Clan might find trouble with you. Ice Sky thought that Han Yue killed Long Weiyang. Long Weiyang is indeed dead, but the person who killed him is not me, but him. Han Yue pointed at Chu Fengmian and suddenly said. You didn't kill Long Weiyang? Then who did it? Ice Sky was stunned, then looked in the direction Han Yue was pointing at. What? You said he killed Long Weiyang? As Elder Icely spoke, she also looked at Chu Fengmian in shock. It was you who killed Long Weiyang? Ice Eski's words were filled with disbelief. Long Weiyang was the leader of the Dragon Gang. In the northern Mang sacred region, there were only a handful of people who could truly defeat Long Weiyang, let alone kill her. Ice Sky originally thought that Han Yue was the one who killed Long Weiyang. With Han Yue's current strength, it wasn't surprising that he could do it. But Han Yue said that Chu Fengmian killed Long Weiyang, which surprised Ice Sky. That's right. Chu Fengmian nodded and waved his hand. A water mirror appeared in front of him. This water mirror showed the scene of Chu Fengmian killing Long Weiyang. Seeing was believing, so Chu Fengmian didn't bother to explain. It wasn't until she saw the scene of Long Weiyang dying at the hands of Chu Fengmian in the water mirror that Elder Icely came to her senses. Chu Fengmian's strength was too terrifying. Especially when he was killing Long Weiyang, it seemed like Long Weiyang was powerless in Chu Fengmian's hands. This kind of strength was a true overlord in northern Mang's sacred region. Ice Sky looked at Chu Fengmian. This time, her eyes weren't as cold as before. Instead, it was much warmer. Very good. The husband that Yuli likes is indeed not trash. With such strength, it's enough to have a foothold in the northern Mang sacred region. By the way, Master, why did you call me back in such a hurry? Is it because of the Sikong family? Han Yue suddenly said. I've already rejected countless times, but Sikong Hong still hasn't given up. I need Master's help to reject the marriage proposal. That's right. I called you back this time because of the Sikong family. Ice Sky slowly said. The ancestor of the Sikong family, Sikong Jingsheng, has a good relationship with me. This time, he personally brought people over, so it's not good for me to appear. It's fine. If the Sikong family dares to come, I'll beat them away. Chu Fengmian calmly said. What martial arts family's genius? If anyone dares to have any ideas about Han Yue, I'll beat them away. If they still don't know when to stop, I'll just kill them. Chu Fengmian's words were extremely indifferent. However, the tone of his words showed that he meant what he said. He was extremely resolute and confident. Beat them away? Kid, it seems like you still don't know how powerful that kid from the Sikong family is. Ice Sky coldly snorted when she heard Chu Fengmian's words. You can kill Long Weiyang, so your strength is indeed not bad. However, Long Weiyang is still a divine power realm martial artist who hasn't gone through the life and death tribulation. She's only ranked 47th on the list of top 100 talents in the northern region. Sikong Hong from the Sikong family is now a genius who has gone through the life and death tribulation. He's at the second level of the life and death realm, and his strength is beyond the life and death realm. He's ranked 35th on the list of top 100 talents in the northern region, far surpassing Long Weiyang. Your intention is good, but you're still not strong enough to resolve this matter. It's meaningless to stand out now. Let's delay for a while. Ice Sky said. Chapter 640. Chu Fengmian was still in the divine power realm, while Sikong Hong had already passed the life and death tribulation. The difference in strength between the two realms was close to 10 times. Some geniuses could indeed kill life and death realm experts in the divine power realm. If Chu Fengmian could do it, so could Long Weiyang and Lu Hua, who had been defeated by Chu Fengmian. However, the life and death realm experts they could defeat were just ordinary life and death realm experts. Sikong Hong was also a genius. When he was in the divine power realm, he could defeat high-level life and death realm experts. Now that he had passed the life and death tribulation, his strength was close to the peak of the life and death realm. Although Chu Fengmian's strength was not bad in Elder Bing Li's eyes, he was still a little weaker than Sikong Hong. At least before Chu Fengmian passed the life and death tribulation, he would not be Sikong Hong's opponent. Chu Fengmian said coldly, his tone full of confidence. Really? He's only in the second level of the life and death realm. If he dares to come, I'll kick him out. A genius on the list of top 100 talents in the northern region? I'd like to see what a so-called genius is. Where did this little guy come from? How dare he talk so arrogantly? How arrogant! A little seed disciple from Beimang's sacred region dares to talk so arrogantly. How dare he look down on me? Suddenly, just as Chu Fengmian finished speaking, a deep and resounding voice descended from the sky. As the voice rang out, it contained traces of killing intent. The voice instantly transformed into an incomparably huge palm. This huge palm appeared out of thin air. It was the condensation of the voice's power. The moment it appeared, it rushed toward Chu Fengmian. It seemed to want to suppress Chu Fengmian. In an instant, Chu Fengmian felt a huge pressure. The huge palm condensed by this sentence was almost comparable to Long Weiyang's true strength. Obviously, the person who attacked was stronger than Long Weiyang. He was a true genius in the northern region. However, Chu Fengmian's expression was extremely calm. Chu Fengmian had long known that this figure had been hiding near the mountain peak. Therefore, his words were not necessarily meant to provoke this person to come out. Sikong Hong? Someone who can only be ranked in the middle of the list of top 100 talents dares to be so arrogant. So what if it was the Sikong clan? A martial arts family is nothing in front of my Northern Mang Academy. You still want to propose marriage to my woman? You're still trying to play tricks here. Get out here! Chu Fengmian coldly snorted. Suddenly, a dragon roar sounded from his mouth. As the dragon roar rang out, the terrifying might of the dragon soared into the sky. The gigantic arm that was formed was instantly shattered, and all the energy within it was dissolved. At the same time, Chu Fengmian made a grabbing motion toward the sky. Boom! Endless spiritual energy was released from Chu Fengmian's palm, condensing the space in the sky. Suddenly, a figure was grabbed by Chu Fengmian from the sky. Sidu Hong's body was directly pulled out by Chu Fengmian's claw and landed on the mountain peak. What? Elder Bing Li was shocked to see that Chu Fengmian had seen through Sikong Han's concealment in the sky and caught him with his claw. She knew Sikong Hong's strength very well. The genius ranked 35th on the list of top 100 talents in the northern region was a real spoiler in northern Mang's sacred region. Especially with Sikong Hong's current realm, he had already passed the life and death tribulation, and his strength had skyrocketed. Sikong Hong was a top genius. When he was in the divine power realm, he was able to kill a high-level life and death realm expert. Now that he had passed the life and death tribulation, it was almost impossible for any divine power realm expert to contend with him. Now, Sikong Hong was defeated by Chu Fengmian in one move, and even his body was directly caught by Chu Fengmian. If Elder Bingley had not seen it with her own eyes, she would not have believed it. Dragon Clan martial technique? Boy, who are you? Sikong Hong's face stiffened slightly when he was caught by Chu Fengmian, as if he had not expected it. I'm Han Yueli's husband. Since you dare to propose marriage to her, you're simply courting death. If you get lost now, I can spare your life. Chu Fengmian looked at Sikong Hong and said with flickering eyes. He did not hide the killing intent in his eyes. Chu Fengmian would only give Sikong Hong this one chance. If he did not get lost now, he would die. Han Yueli's husband? Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Sikong Hong's face suddenly became much more ferocious. I was wondering who it was. So you're that trash. Han Yueli is not someone a trash like you can afford to lose. Han Yueli, haven't you always rejected my proposal because of this trash? Today, I'll kill him in front of you and let you see if your trash husband is worthy of you. Sikong Hong's eyes were instantly filled with killing intent. It was obvious that he was really going to kill Chu Fengmian. With a flick of his hand, a spiritual sword abruptly landed in his hand. Swift and fierce sword intent abruptly erupted from Sikong Hong's body. This sword intent was aimed at Chu Fengmian's heart, as if it was going to stab Chu Fengmian to death at any time. Stop! This is Beimang's sacred region, not a place for you to fight. At the critical moment, Elder Isley suddenly spoke. Her spiritual energy suddenly surged out, and the power of the life-saving realm was fully unleashed. Her fingertip moved, and pointed in front of Chu Fengmian and Sikong Hong, directly separating the two. This casual finger attack was able to suppress Sikong Hong's sword intent. Such a technique was extremely powerful. Life-saving realm. Elder Isley has indeed stepped into this step. Congratulations, congratulations. An aged voice suddenly descended from the sky, and another figure suddenly appeared. It was a white-haired figure. Obviously, it was Sikong clan's old ancestor, Jingsheng. This Sikong Jingsheng was a white-haired old man. Although he looked old, the aura on his body was incomparably vigorous. It was likely that he had already reached the peak of life and death realm, but had yet to cross the threshold of the life and death steps. Although Sikong Jingsheng looked old, with his realm, as long as he took another step and stepped into the first step of the life and death steps, he would be able to transcend life and death. He would obtain a large amount of lifespan, and directly return to his youth. So Brother Sikong has personally come. When Elder Isley saw Sikong Jingsheng, she casually greeted him. Guests from afar, please come in and have a cup of tea. Chapter 641. There's no need to drink a cup of tea. Elder Bingley, I'm sure Elder Bingley knows why I'm here. Sikong Jingsheng looked at Elder Isley and said slowly. This grandson of mine, Sikong Hong, has always been in love with Elder Bingley's disciple for a long time. Today, I have come here precisely to propose marriage to my grandson. Although the Sikong family isn't a big family, it's still a martial arts family in the northern region. My grandson is young and accomplished. He has passed the life and death tribulation and is ranked high on the list of top 100 talents in the northern region. Now that I'm here to propose marriage, I don't think it's a waste of your disciple's talent. My disciple has already rejected the marriage proposal, right? Elder Isley said flatly. Now that Brother Sikong has come here personally, let's forget about it. Really? Elder Isley, please give me a reason. Sikong Jingsheng said coldly. Although the Sikong family isn't as powerful as the Beimang Academy, we still have some face. You should at least give me a convincing reason for your rejection. Reason? What reason do I need? Hanueli is my wife. How dare you propose marriage to her? Chu Fengmian suddenly said without waiting for Elder Isley to speak. I've just wandered outside for a while, and someone actually dares to propose marriage. Get out of here. If you don't get out of here, don't even think about leaving here alive. Chu Fengmian was extremely arrogant. He even dared to speak in such a manner in front of the ancestor of the Sikong family, Sikong Jingsheng. Young man, you, hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Elder Isley's face suddenly changed. She originally wanted to find a reason to resolve this grievance, but she didn't expect Chu Fengmian to speak directly. His words didn't leave any face. The Sikong family was an extremely large martial arts family, and Sikong Jingsheng was the ancestor of the Sikong family. He was only one step away from the life and death steps. A young man dared to speak in such a manner to Sikong Jingsheng. It was an extremely arrogant behavior. Young man, how dare you? This is not the place for you to talk nonsense. Sikong Jingsheng's expression abruptly changed. With his status, he had never been scolded by such a junior. If it wasn't for Elder Bingley in front of him, he would have already wanted to kill Chu Fengmian the moment he spoke. Elder Isley? This kid is Hanueli's husband? In my opinion, he is simply a madman, extremely arrogant. Such a person would be a disaster if he were to stay in the Northern Sea Academy. Sikong Jingsheng said coldly. Today, I'll teach him a lesson for disrupting the relationship between our Sikong family and Beimang Academy. As Sikong Jingsheng spoke, the spiritual energy in his body suddenly exploded forth. How dare you? When Hanueli, who was standing beside Chu Fengmian, saw Sikong Jingsheng make a move, his face instantly turned incomparably cold. The sharp chilliness radiating from her body suddenly swept towards Sikong Jingsheng. With Hanueli's full strength, his strength was actually not inferior to Sikong Jingsheng's. The two forces were in a stalemate in the air. Young man, you're Hanueli's husband? What? Could it be that you only know how to hide behind a woman? In the midst of the stalemate, Sikong Hong suddenly spoke. Young man, do you dare to come and fight with me? If you lose, you will leave Hanueli forever and never appear in front of her again. Fight with you? Chu Fengmian glanced at Sikong Hong and sneered. You're not qualified. Although Sikong Hong's strength was not bad, it was at most similar to the Liu family's Liu Quebec. In front of Chu Fengmian, Liu Ke did not have the slightest strength to fight back. This Sikong Hong was the same. Not qualified. When Sikong Hong heard Chu Fengmian's words, he was not angry, but laughed instead with a somewhat mocking expression. Young man, if you're afraid, just say it. How can a trash who doesn't even dare to fight be Hanueli's husband? In Sikong Hong's ears, Chu Fengmian's words seemed to imply that Chu Fengmian was afraid and did not dare to fight with him. Sikong Hong was originally a genius of his generation, and had the ability to fight across realms. In the same realm, he was almost invincible, and rarely lost. And now, his realm had already reached the second layer of life and death realm, and had passed through the life and death calamity. On the other hand, Chu Fengmian's realm was merely at the limit of divine force realm, and had not even passed through the life and death calamity. Such a gap in realms was simply impossible to cross. Right now, Sikong Hong was planning to challenge Chu Fengmian to a duel. He would make Chu Fengmian suffer a crushing defeat in front of Hanueli. At that time, with Hanueli's pride, she would definitely not take a fancy to trash. Afraid that Chu Fengmian would not agree, Sikong Hong provoked. Young man, if you're still a man, then come out and fight with me. As long as you win, my life will be yours to slaughter. How about it? Don't dare? Are you afraid? Chu Fengmian sneered. Chu Fengmian, had never been afraid of anything. Especially when he heard Sikong Hong's last sentence, the corner of Chu Fengmian's mouth curled into a strange sneer. My life will be yours to slaughter. I don't care about your life. But if you lose, you'll kneel on this mountain peak for 7 days and 7 nights, and let those trash see. You're just a little seed disciple, who can't even be ranked on the list of top 100 talents in the northern region, and yet you dare to challenge me. Today, I'll teach you a lesson and make you leave Hanueli, lest you cause more trouble. Go to hell. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Sikong Hong's face instantly became furious, like a mad lion. He let out a long roar, and the sword in Sikong Hong's hand moved. The Sikong family was a martial arts family that practiced sword principle, and Sikong Hong was also a sword cultivator. The sword essence on his body seemed to have merged with his anger, and turned into a furious sword. Suddenly, it blasted toward Chu Fengmian. This sword was a fatal one. Sikong Hong did not hold back and directly used all his strength. Although this was a gambling fight, in Sikong Hong's view, it was better to kill Chu Fengmian directly than to defeat him, so as to eliminate future troubles. Therefore, this sword contained endless killing intent, and it was a fatal sword. Among the martial artists in the same realm, almost no one could withstand Sikong Hong's sword. The Sikong family was a martial arts family, and Sikong Hong's swordsmanship was naturally superior. The sword light flashed. The mystery of this sword was no less than that of many sword principal ancestors. Chapter 642. In the sky. A beam of sword light suddenly streaked across the space and approached Chu Fengmian in an instant. The sword light was extremely sharp, as if it was going to cut everything in front of it. The sword light almost instantly arrived in front of Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian stood in place, as if he had not reacted and was still in a daze. Seeing this, Sikong Hong sneered in his heart. His sword light was something that even those geniuses who had survived the tribulation of life and death could not resist. Moreover, he was going all out to deal with a warrior in the divine power realm. He could already see the next moment, when Chu Fengmian was killed by the sword light without being able to fight back. With this speed, even if Hanueli wanted to save him now, it would be impossible. Child's play. When the sword light was only a short distance away from Chu Fengmian said indifferently. All of a sudden, Chu Fengmian waved his hand and made a grabbing motion. The sword light was caught by Chu Fengmian. The sharp sword light kept cutting Chu Fengmian's hand, but there was no wound on his hand. It was as if the sword light could not hurt Chu Fengmian. Bam! As Chu Fengmian exerted force in his hand, the sword light was directly crushed by Chu Fengmian's hand. The surrounding people who saw this scene were stunned, as if they could not believe that Chu Fengmian was now so powerful. Especially Elder Bingley, who looked as if she had seen a ghost. She had guessed Chu Fengmian's strength, but she did not expect Chu Fengmian to be able to do this. He took the sword light of a sword cultivator with his bare hands. This was simply an act of madness to the extreme. Moreover, Sikong Hong was not an ordinary sword cultivator, but a real genius on the list of top 100 talents. Now, his sword light was directly taken by Chu Fengmian. Sikong Hong was also stunned, and a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. However, he looked as calm as ever. What a powerful physical body. To be able to receive my sword, it seems like your physical body has indeed reached an unbelievable level. However, with just this physical body, it's not enough to contend against me. No matter how strong your body is, I don't believe that it can be stronger than my sword. With a thought, the sword in Sikong Hong's hand disappeared. Instead, another sword suddenly appeared in his hand. However, the power of this sword was completely different from the previous one. The sword in Sikong Hong's hand earlier could only be considered as an ordinary earth-grade spiritual weapon. However, the sword in his hand now emitted the aura of a heaven-grade spiritual weapon. The moment the spiritual sword was unsheathed, the sharp sword light seemed to want to cut Chu Fengmian into pieces. The Sikong Daluo sword. This is the Sikong family's treasure. When Elder Bingley saw the sword, she turned pale with fright. Why is this sword in your hands? The Sikong Daluo sword was a heaven-grade spirit artifact. A heaven-grade spirit artifact could play a decisive role in a battle between life and death realm experts. Sikong Hong's strength was above Chu Fengmian's. Now that he had the Sikong Daluo sword, Chu Fengmian had no chance of defeating Sikong Hong. Sikong Jingsheng said with a cold smile. Elder Bingley, there's no need to be alarmed. The Sikong Daluo sword has always been controlled by the patriarch of our Sikong family. Now that my grandson has become the next patriarch of the Sikong family, it's normal for the Sikong Daluo sword to be in my grandson's hands. Sikong Jingsheng was extremely confident in this battle. He did not think that Chu Fengmian, who was not even on the list of top 100 talents in the northern region, could contend against Sikong Hong. In his opinion, Chu Fengmian would be defeated in less than 3 moves. It was even very likely that he would die. Brat, don't you have the confidence to fight me because you have the strength of your physical body? Now, let's see if your physical body is stronger or if my sword is sharper. Sikong Hong looked at Chu Fengmian and sneered. If you kneel down and admit defeat, I can spare your life and let you go, Sikong Hong said to Chu Fengmian. Sikong Hong said to Chu Fengmian. His tone sounded as if he was giving alms to someone. Now that the Sikong Daluo sword was out, Sikong Hong felt that he had completely subdued Chu Fengmian. No matter how strong a person's physical body was, it was impossible to contend against a heaven-grade spiritual weapon. In his opinion, Chu Fengmian was just an ant that he could toy with however he wanted. However, before he could finish his words, Chu Fengmian's face revealed a mocking smile. This sword is a good sword, but the person who uses it is a good for nothing. This sword is useless in your hands. Give it to me. Chu Fengmian sneered and suddenly grabbed at Sikong Hong. He wanted to snatch the sword away from Sikong Hong. You want to snatch the sword? You're courting death. Sikong Hong roared. The sword in his hand suddenly fell. When the sword fell, it was enough to split into thousands of streaks of sword chi that slashed at Chu Fengmian at the same time. Sikong Hong's swordsmanship could already be considered pretty good. In the northern region, he was almost the strongest among the warriors of the same realm. Given his aptitude, it was very likely that he would become an extremely terrifying sword Dao grandmaster in the future. Unfortunately, the person Sikong Hong had encountered was Chu Fengmian. Since he had provoked Chu Fengmian, he had no future. Although Sikong Hong's swordsmanship was good, in Chu Fengmian's opinion, it was full of flaws. Dragon. Suddenly, dragon blood condensed on Chu Fengmian's right hand and transformed into a huge dragon claw. Streaks of sword chi suddenly condensed at the tips of the 5 fingers of the dragon claw. He grabbed at the air. The thousands of streaks of sword chi in the sky were shattered layer by this grab. Not a single one of them was left behind. Chu Fengmian had actually broken this sword attack so easily. Sikong Hong's heaven-grade spiritual weapon, which had condensed sword intent, was completely dissipated by Chu Fengmian's grab. What? You can actually break my swordsmanship? How is that possible? Sikong Hong's face suddenly changed. He was no longer as calm as before. Instead, his face faintly revealed a bit of paleness. Whether it was his swordsmanship or his sword, they were almost invulnerable in the same level. But now, Chu Fengmian had broken it so easily. Moreover, Chu Fengmian did not break it by force at all. Instead, he directly found the flaw in his swordsmanship and completely defeated it. In terms of swordsmanship, Sikong Hong was actually defeated. Chapter 643. Sikong Hong's face was no longer as confident and playful as before. Instead, it was extremely solemn. His swordsmanship had never been broken by anyone in the same realm. After all, the Sikong family was a martial arts family. His understanding of swordsmanship was naturally superior to other martial artists. He had never dreamed that his swordsmanship would be broken. How powerful, transforming his finger into a sword. This sword technique is too mysterious. Where did he learn such a profound sword technique from? I don't know how to use it. Elder Isley was also startled. Although she was not a sword cultivator, she knew many sword masters. However, even sword masters, or even old antiques who had stepped onto the life and death steps, might not necessarily have such swordsmanship. Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship had to be far more mysterious than Xikong Hong's to be able to break Xikong Hong's swordsmanship. Xikong Hong's swordsmanship was enough to be praised in the list of top 100 talents in the northern region. He was one of the best among the younger generation. However, he had been easily surpassed by someone. Han Yueli explained. Master, he had previously obtained the inheritance of Sage Beimang from the All Saints Hall. The inheritance of Sage Beimang. Han Yueli's words shocked Elder Bingley. Sage Beimang was the founder of the Beimang Academy. It was rumored that Sage Beimang was indeed an extremely powerful sword cultivator. No wonder. It was enough to explain why Chu Fengmian had such powerful swordsmanship after obtaining the inheritance of Sage Beimang. Good, you're very good. Xikong Hong looked at Chu Fengmian and his expression became much more serious as he spoke coldly. A divine power realm martial artist is actually able to break my swordsmanship. You're qualified for me to take you seriously. It's your honor to be defeated by my full strength. Void-breaking sword. Xikong Hong's sword moved again. A 1,000-meter-long sword chi suddenly condensed and blasted toward Chu Fengmian. There was no longer any fancy technique. All it had was an incomparably domineering power. Xikong Hong was a genius after all. After exchanging blows with Chu Fengmian, he knew that Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship had even surpassed his. He could not gain any advantage in swordsmanship against Chu Fengmian. Although Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship was mysterious, his strength was still in the divine power realm. If he could not win with his swordsmanship, he could only compete with his strength. He was a life and death realm martial artist. He did not believe that he could not beat Chu Fengmian. No matter how exquisite Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship was, it was meaningless against such a sword that was purely based on strength. He could only resist it with brute force. Strength? Do you think you're a match for me in terms of strength? Seeing Xikong Hong's actions, Chu Fengmian sneered. With a single thought, the battle dragon claw suddenly materialized in the sky and slammed down. When he looked, he saw a seen Chu Fengmian. His swordsmanship clashed with Chu Fengmian's battle dragon claw in the sky. The battle dragon claw shook and Xikong Hong's swordsmanship was shattered. The 1,000-meter-long sword chi was forcibly shattered. The force of the backlash caused Xikong Hong's face to surge with blood, and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. This is impossible. What kind of strength is this? I lost in a contest of strength. Xikong Hong roared inwardly. He had lost to Chu Fengmian in a contest of swordsmanship. Now, he lost again in a contest of strength. He was a life and death realm martial artist. How could he lose so miserably against a divine power realm martial artist like Chu Fengmian? Not even in his wildest dreams could he have imagined such a scene. However, it was not over yet. After breaking Xikong Hong's swordsmanship, Chu Fengmian suddenly moved. His figure was unbelievably fast. Before Xikong Hong could react, he had already arrived in front of him. This sword will only collect dust in your hands. Hand it over. Chu Fengmian's hand grabbed at the Xikong Daluo sword. Xikong Hong turned pale with fright. He did not expect Chu Fengmian to be so fast. His feet moved, and he hurriedly retreated. However, Chu Fengmian was even faster than him. His hand was already grabbing at Xikong Hong. Xikong Hong let out a miserable scream. The Xikong Daluo sword had been snatched away by Chu Fengmian and landed in his hands. Kneel down. Chu Fengmian raised his hand and slowly lowered it. It contained an extremely powerful pressure that directly pressed down on Xikong Hong's body. Chu Fengmian's strength was so great that Xikong Hong was no match for him even if he used all his strength. Moreover, the sword in his hand had already been taken away by Chu Fengmian. The most important thing in a sword cultivator's life was the sword in his hand. It was already a great humiliation for Xikong Hong to have his sword taken away by Chu Fengmian. Ah! Following a miserable scream, Si Kong Hong's body fell from the sky with a bang. His knees went soft and he knelt on the ground. Si Kong Hong's face was extremely pale. Now that he had been defeated and knelt on the ground, it was a great humiliation. He almost fainted from anger. The scene was silent. No one spoke. They just stared blankly at the scene. Si Kong Hong had been defeated by Chu Fengmian and was now kneeling on the ground. "Die, brat!" A furious roar was heard all of a sudden. The ancestor of the Si Kong family, Si Kong Jingsheng, was furious to the extreme when he saw Si Kong Hong being defeated by Chu Fengmian and kneeling on the ground. When had the Si Kong family ever suffered such humiliation? Si Kong Jingsheng abruptly threw out a palm strike towards Chu Fengmian. This palm strike contained boundless killing intent, as if he wanted to kill Chu Fengmian with this strike. "Brother Si Kong, please calm down." Elder Bingley suddenly came to her senses. She waved her hand and tried to stop Si Kong Jingsheng. "Elder Bingley, this brat has gone too far. Making a member of the Si Kong family kneel is a humiliation to the Si Kong family." Si Kong Jingsheng looked coldly at Elder Bingley and shouted angrily. "Today, your Northern Mang Academy must hand over this news to the Si Kong family. Our Si Kong family must get an explanation. Brother Si Kong, this is a matter between the younger generation. As an elder, it's not good for you to get involved. How about this? My name is Chu Fengmian. Let Si Kong Hong go and today's matter will be written off. How about it? You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.